where the beaches are open.
Yoo-hoo!
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, May 21st, 2020. This is your award-winning Gimmo Nation Media Assassination episode 1244.
This is No Agenda.
Counting our Spotify downloads and broadcasting live from Opportunity Zone 33 here in the frontier of Austin, Texas, capital of the Drone Star State. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where we're hearing that the CDC now says coronavirus does not spread easily on surfaces. What? I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Oh, man, please. Who listens to that anymore? Who listens to the CDC? We've given up. We've just given up. We've given up.
Sounds like they're full of crap.
We had some friends over last night, 2 women. Actually, just for after dinner drink, 6 o'clock. And, one of them, I think both of them had been here before a couple of weeks ago. One of them is a teacher, and she had not been out of the house since the last time she saw us and was so freaked out by everything that she had learned and listened to, she social distance inside our house. No, it's.
Is she wearing a mask?
Well, almost. And it was kind of odd, It's like, oh man, I feel bad that you feel that way. Of course, we respected that, but it was just, damn. And it's because we had been out. That's why. Because we've been out boozing around and having dinners and stuff, and it was
We're media exempt.
Well, yes, we're essential personnel. Obviously, we all know that. But it was, it was just
freaky.
Yeah, and we went out we had an anniversary on Tuesday, so we went to Fix, which is here in Austin, which is open again. Now they're also at their 25% limitation.
Have they put dummies in the chairs yet?
No, but I did want to take a moment to tell everybody, in order to make everyone comfortable during this time of transition, we're letting all our producers know that in compliance with social distancing guidelines, we have filled some audience slots with mannequins and sex dolls. So
Good.
if you, so just so you know, we want the show to look full, like we've got everybody here. So we go to Fix. That's where we had our first date too, which was nice. And we've kind of gone back there once, at least once a year for some kind of celebration.
For the Fix.
For the Fix, yeah, F-I-X-E. They had no, temperature readings, no signing any waivers, just come on in, no mask necessary, outside or inside. Personnel was wearing masks and gloves, and there was, tables were spaced out. The food, incredible as always, but we had a chat with one of the girls who works there, server. I guess she's more like maitre d' kind of. Although there's so little personnel, everyone's doing different things, and we've been there before, and Elise, she knows the bartender, so we're all kind of like just chatting a bit, and we're friendly, and she kind of opens up to us. She says, the big problem is that ever since the shutdown, every single AA meeting has been canceled. And most of these meetings, took place in churches or community centers or schools, completely shut down. And people are in, and by the way, nice to know that alcohol sales and liquor stores are open. It's real, and it's, the unintended consequences.
We get a lot of those memes going around, the beaches are closed, but the pot shops are open in California.
Right. But I'm just, you don't really think about it, but these meetings are crucial. Many people need them every day. Every day. And they're doing the illegal, and it has to be kind of in person. It's not a thing that really works very well over Zoom. So they're doing illegal meetings behind dumpsters, and it's insane. No one.
It's like the days before the abortion was legalized.
Not dissimilar, but that's what you get. It's like no one really thought about this shit. Nobody. Ugh. However, before we get into all that, I think we need to talk about Rogan.
Oh, yes, I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, so I have a few notes, but maybe we just listen to his little announcement, which came over the transom I guess the day before yesterday.
Hello, everybody. I have an announcement. The podcast is moving to Spotify. I signed a multi-year licensing agreement with Spotify that will start on September 1st. Starting on September 1st, the entire JRE library will be available on Spotify as well as all the other platforms. Then somewhere around the end of the year, it will become exclusive to Spotify, including the video version of the podcast. It will be the exact same show. I am not going to be an employee of Spotify. We're going to be working with the same crew doing the exact same show. The only difference will be it will now be available on the largest audio platform in the world. Nothing else will change. It will be free. It will be free to you. You just have to go to Spotify to get it. We're very excited to begin this new chapter of the JRE, and I hope you're there when we cross over. Thanks.
A couple of things about that announcement. I would never announce anything and then end it with crossing over. That had such a death connotation to it. I think that was subliminal and not intended. But
subconscious, you mean?
Subconscious, yeah. But crossing over sounded weird.
Yeah, I think it was a subconscious.
Truth wants to come out. We cross over to the dark side, to the evil side. Also, the largest.
There's no real. I mean, yes, it's just bad phrase. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
The largest audio platform is an interesting connotation.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, really? Truly, the largest platform is
bigger than Apple.
Spotify.
Yeah,
I don't know. It might be. I have no idea. But
is it bigger than YouTube?
Well, let's go through this for a second, because I think some people are. There's a lot of expected response. A lot of feeling of betrayal. I don't know how rampant that is.
That, but okay.
I mean, this is what I see. Of course, people are jumping all over it. But I just want to give a little perspective on this, because I think people are jumping to a lot of conclusions now. And although I have not discussed this specifically with Joe, we talk. We text a lot. We have regular contact, and this is almost expected from him at this point. I would say Joe really cares more about the video, about the video podcast. And I think it's important for the show that he does in general on YouTube that you see the person. Well, he's had incredible difficulty with this. Having to self-censor, having to cut pieces out. As you know, YouTube censors anything that is that diverts from the COVID-19 coronavirus official message. He hasn't been able to really have people on that he wanted to interview for fear of being, demonetized happens, I think, fairly regularly with his videos, but really for fear of being kicked off. And I think YouTube, although the majority of his money probably comes from the podcast advertising, I think that's really what is most important to him. And I think it's most important to Spotify. They're really trying to diversify into two things. One, they definitely want to do video, and they need to have content that doesn't cost them per stream. That's the problem with their business model, is every time that you listen to a song, it costs them whether they've gotten money from you through a subscription or an ad or not. So they need this, and I think video is really where they're pushing.
We should mention, it doesn't cost them much. But even that little bitty pittance that they end up giving up
is billions of dollars. Now
it's a lot. It adds up, but it's still, the artists aren't showing a lot of. It's not like the music business guys, the people that are musicians, are getting rich off of Spotify.
Spotify is losing money. They're a public company. You can see how much they're losing. They're losing money, just like Netflix. These are losing money. That's okay. That's the business plan. I think Joe was shaken up by what happened to Alex Jones. Alex Jones was in a coordinated effort. He was removed from Apple Podcasts, from all the podcast apps. The Podcast Addict app, the podcast app, which you just use to subscribe to podcasts, was removed from the Google Play Store because they had the audacity to list podcasts that had health information, quote unquote, that is not the approved sanctioned message. So that's all. I think those were Joe's main concerns, and it's what a safe, much more safer way to do a licensing deal, which is, There's a lot of things in there. I think it's not just like, oh, here you go, I'm yours exclusively. No, it's a licensing deal. So it may be that not all episodes go out. There's all kinds of things that can change along the way. But then I think from the monetary side, the podcast where and I know that this is where most of the money came in from. I told him myself multiple times, I'm worried. You have 8 minutes of ads leading into the show. Everybody knows we skip past it. Hello? Come on, man. And so you must be getting heat from people who either want to be first or last or whatever it is. So that was not sustainable. So we have the content issues. I'm not so sure about it never being available on RSS, and that's kind of where it gets funky, is people don't consider something a podcast unless it has an RSS feed. And I agree with that, but it doesn't make any difference to the people who want to watch Joe Rogan. The downside he'll have is twofold. One, he will no longer have the algo of YouTube, and I think that's a huge underestimation. And that's probably why they're trying to do a transition period to get people used to the fact that you can watch the show over here. Because if you subscribe to the Joe Rogan YouTube channel, when there's something new, you know about it. And he's not doing newsletters or any other way of notifying people. So I think that's going to take a lot of work to compensate for that. And obviously the listenership and viewership will have to go down. Also, if you're not going to use an RSS feed, is it for sale? Because I'd be very interested in purchasing that. And who owns the domain name associated with it? And do you have any idea how much convenience is going to be lost? I mean, if you've ever lost an RSS feed, then you kind of know how hard it is to build that back up. So there will be some relevance issues that I think Joe will have to deal with, just in a way like Howard Stern, where the medium is kind of the message. So like with Howard Stern, the medium was FM radio, morning radio. He was breaking all the rules, saying nasty things. The FCC was the man. And then he went to Sirius, and all of a sudden he could use profanity, and there was no enemy. And a little bit of that pirate mentality is there with Joe Rogan and the Joe Rogan experience is we're just crazy. We're hanging out. We're doing nutty stuff. And it turns out it's working pretty well. But then this feels like some kind of cop-out, sellout, and it may very well be, to that.
Well, the word on
degree.
Wall Street is he got $100 million.
Well, that's not the word on Wall Street, but that's the word in the podcast industry.
It is. I don't know. Maybe
he read
more.
the same podcast business journal. It may be. It's I'd say anywhere between 50 million and that over a multi-year period. Sure, why not? And let me.
It wouldn't be. You wouldn't be cash. Here's $100 million.
Oh no, absolutely not. Now, so this is great for Netflix. I think it protects all of Joe's upside, and it gives him almost no downside other than relevance. But I think this man wants to stand up. He's not a podcaster. He likes doing stand up, and that's what he wants to do. And the show facilitates his life. So I have
Why can't he still use the RSS feed?
Well, I think he can, and here's how I would view it. Again, Spotify's needs are not to pull away an RSS feed. Spotify's needs are to have, as we discussed, people who have this this kind of free content for them. So the video part, they're going to sell ads on anyone who is listening or I presume watching. Let's just leave it with listening. Who isn't isn't a paying member. So you might as well have the same ads run for the people who still subscribe to the RSS feed. You could leave that in place, and it would probably do better for Spotify than maniacally trying to cut that off. But it does change something. It changes the view for people and what they think is important. And I just wanted to, there's no real numbers on anything. So, he says 198 million downloads a month. Could be, I don't know. I don't know if that's people who listen as well. But I did take a look at what being on the Joe Rogan show and coronavirus has done to the No Agenda, if you're interested.
Sure.
So I don't have any absolute numbers, but with Apple, you can go into Podcast Connect and you can see trends of people who are using the iPhone, at least iPhone 11, and the Apple Podcast app. So I'm just going. So on March 4th, we were at our 100%, whatever, just a baseline of 100%. After I went on Rogan by March 8th, our baseline was 200%. We went from the baseline; it was 200%. A week later, now this is when the lockdown started to happen. So you've got to think it might be a combination, but for sure, Rogan, we went from 200% to 500% to 2,000% of our original baseline. And we've now leveled off at 1,800%. Just to give you an idea of what kind of numbers Rogan's pushing.
Go back on the show.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. It's nice that we got about 8 listeners for sure who have actually identified as listeners.
Well, we were talking about donors.
Yeah, donors. I'm sorry.
We probably picked up quite a few listeners, but the number, but a lot of them donated early too. A lot of our normal listening pattern is somebody will listen to the show for 2 years and then come in with maybe a big donation or anything from $200 to $1,000, and then after years of listening, these guys are a little faster on the draw.
Well, now if this would happen to us, here's how I would do it. Let's just presume it's 100 million, and of course. We have a very, you and I, we can't work for anybody. That's impossible. There's no way.
For plenty of people.
No, but I mean, we cannot.
We have to.
We could no longer we couldn't work for Spotify. We're not going to have a meeting with Spotify about what we're doing. No, that's not going to happen. But let's say we could just have a licensing deal, and we had this value for value. I would say 100 million. Everyone who's donated. We're going to send them $1,000. You and I still make out like bandits. We give you your money back with a little bit of interest, and then then we keep going. Anyway,
yeah.
So I think it's great for Joe. I think it's good for his show. It'll last because it was going down. There's no way it could have gone anywhere but into the censorship bin on YouTube, which always comes with all kinds of crap. Controversy, and then before you know it, someone says something, and then it's off the podcast app. So I think the man has a family and a career to protect. Is it great for podcasting? I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with it anymore. Joe Rogan Experience is a whole different phenomenon.
I think the future podcast is always what you claim, which is independent.
Yeah, the tribal media.
Something we don't. Yeah, you're not dependent on a third party.
Exactly, and it's good to know, just like in jail, it's good to know that you can escape. It's good to know that once in a while, one of us gets out and makes some real money and then can live like a king.
Yeah, besides the Gimlet people.
Now, that said, where is Gimlet? Do you hear that much from them anymore?
They were bought by Spotify.
I know. So the relevance, it's just like Stern. It kind of fades away. So that I think is sad.
But what did they have? Did they have
2 shows?
Anything
no, they really had 2 shows. Not really 2
besides
shows.
Neumann Mike's.
Yeah, no, they had 2 shows and it's a mystery show. What is it? True crime. It's really it's all show oriented. We'll see. We'll see what Spotify does. Meanwhile, the mainstream media is so freaked out in general by podcasting and what's really happening with tribal media. Is apparent from this public service announcement, and I'm sure they meant it kind of as funny, but it went on too long for it to be just funny, from the ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, paid for by the citizens of Australia. And they aired this. There is some foul language in here, an F-bomb coming up, but if it was good enough for ABC in Australia, it should be good enough for the podcast.
These are unprecedented times.
We know things are hard right now. You're stuck inside with nothing to do.
You might be going out of your mind.
Just wanting to do something.
Anything.
But now, more than ever.
More than ever.
More than ever.
It's time to think about how your choices affect others.
So please, don't start a podcast.
Just don't do it.
Don't do it. You might feel like it's a productive use of your time right now.
You've probably already got a USB mic and a spare room ready to go.
And your mate Dave's got some interesting opinions.
But we're here to tell you.
He doesn't.
He really doesn't. He's a fuckwit.
We don't need your true crime exclusive, which is just you reading Wikipedia articles to your housemate.
We don't need your minute-by-minute breakdown of every episode of Parks and Rec.
What are you going to do? Send everyone in your contact list a MailChimp newsletter?
And force them to mark you as spam instead of unsubscribing?
Because they're scared to hurt your feelings?
We're in the middle of a pandemic!
Look, it's pretty straightforward.
Just go inside a podcast.
Make some pasta from scratch like everyone else and just shut up.
The greatest gift you can give your fellow human beings right now?
Right now.
Right now.
Is to shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Come on.
Do it.
Don't start a podcast.
Now, you can say that's just out of fun, but there was a little too much hostility in there for my taste.
It was too long for the punchline.
Yeah.
And so it's slightly overproduced. I mean, you don't go through the process of making that with all these different people coming on board and helping.
Unless it's some kind of internal thing.
There's something, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe it had to do with a couple of the people that actually work at Australian Broadcasting that were thinking about doing a podcast or brought it up in meetings.
Right.
Don't you think we could do a podcast?
We should do more
after the show, we can do
we should do more podcasts. We should do a podcast about a podcast. Yes, exactly. I don't know. So yeah, I'm not too worried, and all this industry talk, because the podcasting space is an industry of which you and I are never invited to the party.
Which is, to me, always a good sign.
I know. Good sign for us.
It's a good sign for, yes. Yeah, we're never invited. All these events, they have all these things. Jen Briney goes to most of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if she still does. I mean, obviously, nobody's going to anything during this break shutdown. But it's like, I talk to her once in a while. She says, did you going to go to the podcast fest, whatever it's called? There's always one of those. Got some dumb name.
The podcast hoedown.
Podcastapalooza. And no, I don't even know about it. Oh, you think they'd invite you? No, I never heard of it.
No, they don't invite us. The podcast fest. No, we're persona non grata.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, also because we figured it out. This is the way. You don't need to have Joe Rogan audience to sustain from your community. It's exactly.
No, it's like a small church.
It is in a way. Yes,
it's a church. You see these churches, there's mega churches. They bring in the big dough. That'd be Joe Rogan. Big mega church bringing in the dough.
No, but Joe Rogan.
Then there's these little community churches. They do just fine.
No, Joe Rogan was not in a church. He was in a stadium like Bruce Springsteen, taking money. No, it's not the same.
Have you ever seen some of these mega churches? Have you seen Joel Osteen's?
I know, but
it's a stadium. It's literally, he bought the old Houston basketball team stadium.
He's not value for value, so it's not the same as a church.
Joel Osteen is value for value.
Yes, but Joe Rogan is not.
Oh, Joe Rogan's not. Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I can see churches going that way if they were allowed to by law. If there was legal, I bet you the churches would have the same underwriters.
Wait a minute. You mean to take? Why isn't it legal? Why can't a church have
advertisers,
tithing, and
let's just call it what it is,
and then just break for ads? What's wrong with? I don't see a problem with that. Hey, listen, y'all, you haven't been putting enough in the collection dish, so here's a word from Coca-Cola. Why not?
I think there's some legal issue to it. There's some lawyer listening to this right now that knows the answer to this, to my pause. Well, why am I pausing? Because I suspect there's something illegal about it. I think a religious organization can't just be an advertising front for advertisers.
Well, it's advertising for God.
We also have the drug companies underwriting us. You know, I mean,
advertising for
this sermon is brought to you by Squibb.
Okay, now you've taken me there. Now we need to go into this 2-clip extravaganza, because yes, it is about the advertisers. And something fantastic happened. I saw it happen live. And this is where the president offhandedly admits that he's been taking hydroxychloroquine for about a week.
It's got everybody freaked out.
In a surprise, like offhanded announcement, here is a clip of it.
I think for whatever it's worth, I take it. I would have told you that 3-4 days ago, but we never had a chance because you never asked me the question.
Because you're asking me shitty gotcha questions.
Did the White House doctor recommend that you take that? Is that why you're taking it?
Yeah, White House doctor. I didn't recommend. No, I asked him, what do you think? He said, well, if you'd like it. I said, yeah, I'd like it. I'd like to take it. A lot of people are taking it. A lot of frontline workers are taking hydroxychloroquine. I don't take it because, hey, people said, oh, maybe he owns the company. No, I don't own the company. You know what? I want the people of this nation to feel good. I don't want them being sick. I was just waiting to see your eyes light up when I said this, but, when I announced this. But, yeah, I've taken it for about a week and a half now. And I'm still here.
Can you explain, sir, though, what is the evidence that it has a preventative effect?
Here we go. You ready? Here's my evidence. I get a lot of positive calls about it. And I say, hey, you know the expression I've used, John? What do you have to lose? Okay, what do you have to lose? So I have been taking it for about a week and a half.
Every day?
At some point, every day. I take a pill every day. At some point, I'll stop. What I'd like to do is I'd like to have the cure and or the vaccine, and that'll happen, I think, very soon.
So what happened at this moment was fantastic. And just a reminder of the background that this is a widely available drug. It's incredibly cheap to get. It is not the planned. It is not the plan. The plan was, while we have a vaccine in the making, Moderna has been blessed to make that. We have remdesivir, and remdesivir, they've even gone so far as to kind of gin up some interim numbers to make it look a little better than the first trial was, which the market saw because the market tanked the stock, and then, oh no, but we have something positive, went back up. And that's a $1,400 per serving. So that's really, and this is the pharmaceutical industry. You've learned from us, China and the pharmaceutical industry own the media. And here is proof, and it's my favorite to show Fox News, who now have a new name called Fox Pharma. And Neil Cavuto was on when this briefing took place. They interrupted right after the president was done. And this is what he went on for 7 minutes. And I took 2.
That was stunning. The President of the United States, just to acknowledge that he is taking hydroxychloroquine, a drug meant really to treat malaria and lupus. The President has insisted that it has enormous benefits for patients either trying to prevent or already have COVID-19. The fact of the matter is, though, when the President said, what have you got to lose? In a number of studies, those are certainly vulnerable. The population have one thing to lose, their lives. A VA study showed that among a population of veterans in a hospital receiving this treatment, those with vulnerable conditions, respiratory conditions, heart ailments, they died. There are also a number of other studies out, including the Journal of the American Medical Association, which examined some 1,438 individuals in the New York area across 25 hospitals from the middle of March to the end of March. The study was a real chance to look at the...
He had this information at the ready?
Oh, it rolled out, John. It rolled out like they opened up the manila envelope that said warning in case something bad happens. He's stumbling through the prompter. This is ready.
Unbelievable. I know about him doing this.
No, you have no idea. It's only halfway through.
I didn't realize that it was like a prepared script.
And it happened when the president said it. Now, either they knew.
You worked in this business. That doesn't happen unless there's something already ready to go. It's got to be done.
The only time I've had that is working in the Netherlands. There was a suitcase, and if anything happened to the Queen or the royal family, the suitcase was to be opened, and the suitcase contained the records and the playlist and the exact text of what to say. And it reminds me of this. He's flipping out, but he'll take it all the way to the end. Remember, Fox Pharma owned. by the pharmaceutical industry.
Which examined some 1,438 individuals in the New York area across 25 hospitals from the middle of March to the end of March. The study was a real chance to look at the benefits that the president insisted were hydroxychloroquine. They concluded that among residents hospitalized in metropolitan...
Say what?
It was without the zinc.
No, the VA study is not peer-reviewed. This is all bullcrap.
No, it's all bullshit.
It's all bullshit. That among residents hospitalized in metropolitan New York with COVID-19, the treatment or both compared with neither treatment, no statistical differences. A second study done by Joseph Gilleris and colleagues at the New York Presbyterian Hospital, Columbia University Irving Medical Center in northern Manhattan from March 7th to April 8th also showed there were no visible differences, that the risk of intubation or death was not significantly higher or lower among patients who received hydroxychloroquine versus those who did not. The VA study to which the president alluded wasn't a loaded political one. It was a test on patients there.
Here it comes.
And those who took it.
Now remember, this is written by the pharmaceutical industry for Neil Cavuto here at Fox Pharma, and let's take it home. Let's really scare them.
In a vulnerable population, including those with respiratory or other conditions, they died. I want to stress again, they died. If you are in a risky population here and you are taking this as a preventative treatment to ward off the virus, or in a worst case scenario, you are dealing with the virus, and you are in this vulnerable population, it will kill you. I cannot stress enough. This will kill you.
Ladies and gentlemen, chairman of the board of Fox Pharma, there is Neil Cavuto. And of course, we have an ISO.
This will kill you.
I got some ISOs too we'll go over later. That's not bad.
Man, can you believe that, though? And they had that ready to go.
Yeah, well, which brings me, I have two series of clips I want to play, and one I would like to go to this one. First of all, I have a long presentation on the origins of COVID, but I am taking the beat of Kaylee.
Yes.
Kaylee the Avenger.
I do want to come back to one more clip when you take us to Kaylee, because
Kaylee addressed this issue.
That's why I know. That's why I say I just want to come back.
Okay, well then we'll go to just one Kaylee clip. I got two others left, but this is a two-parter, and she goes off the deep end on this. So this is a long clip followed by a short follow-up.
It's worth it.
But this is Kaylee going on.
Kaylee McEnany, the new press secretary for the White House.
She's the mean sorority girl who's up there kicking ass and taking names.
I'm glad she's your beat. That's for sure.
So here she comes. And she's going to address the HCQ event. This event, it was an event when Trump made the announcement, and even Scott Adams made a special presentation on his Periscope at night.
What was his take?
He thought it was genius. He brought him back to the Trump camp when he says he's never seen it. He says he just thought it was genius because he knew it would get everyone all bent out of shape, and he was just laughing about it.
Yeah.
And because he just thought it was another Trump ploy.
Yeah.
But here's Kaylee going on about it. Here we go.
Got moments ago a statement from the American Nurses Association which says, quote, the American Nurses Association has not received reports from nurses or other frontline healthcare workers utilizing hydroxychloroquine as a preventative treatment for COVID-19. Why does the president continue to say that many or thousands of frontline workers are using it as a prophylactic?
Well, there is at Henry Ford Hospital is doing a study on this now where 3,000 frontline workers will be taking hydroxychloroquine to look at its use as a prophylaxis. I believe there's a few hundred or 190 workers in Tampa General Hospital. So this is being used by some. And one thing I want to note with regard to hydroxychloroquine, because I think it's very important that we're as accurate as we can be with our reporting on this. Hydroxychloroquine has been a drug that has been in use for 65 years for lupus, arthritis, and malaria. It has a very good safety profile, but as with any drug and as with any prescription, it should be given by a doctor to a patient in that context. So no one should be taking this without a prescription from their doctor. But that being said, I've seen a lot of apoplectic coverage of hydroxychloroquine. You had Jimmy Kimmel saying the president's, quote, trying to kill himself by taking it. You had Joe Scarborough saying, quote, this will kill you. Neil Cavuto saying, what have you got to lose? One thing you have to lose are lives. And you had Chris Cuomo saying,
isn't it interesting, although I don't have the evidence, that Cavuto said this will kill you and Joe Scarborough from another network said the same thing?
Yeah, gee, that's never happened before.
Quote, this will kill you. Neil Cavuto saying, what have you got to lose? One thing you have to lose are lives. And you had Chris Cuomo saying the president knows that hydroxychloroquine is not supported by science. He knows it has been flagged by his own people, and he's using it. Well, Cuomo mocked the president for this. And interestingly, I found this out just before coming here. Hydroxychloroquine, of course, is an FDA-approved medication with a long proven track record for safety, and it turns out that Chris Cuomo took a less safe version of it called quinine, which the FDA removed from the market in 2006 because of its serious side effects, including death. So really interesting to have that criticism of the president. And on that note to Chris Cuomo, I'd like to redirect him to his brother, the governor of New York, Governor Cuomo, who has several on-the-record statements about hydroxychloroquine, saying, I'm an optimist. I'm hopeful about the drug, and that's why we'll try it here in New York as soon as we get it. There has been anecdotal evidence that it's promising. That's why we're going ahead. And I have about 8 other quotes from Governor Cuomo, should any of you have interest in that.
And this is exactly why we have otherwise intelligent people showing up completely freaked out at my house because of this, of the media really working against any messaging, only spreading fear and death and destruction, and when there's good news, under or not reporting it at all.
No, not reporting it at all. You get that right.
The IMHE model changed over this week, and there's now, they've just subtracted a good 10, 20,000 deaths expected in the U.S., and they have it broken down by state. I'm sure you haven't heard that. Because
no, that's too, no, that borders on good news.
Yeah.
Even if it borders on good news, you don't want to report it.
And so people get very, very confused.
By the way, this is beyond when it leads, it bleeds, or when it bleeds, it leads. This is just Trump hate. No. In fact, no. What we heard, John, was the pharmaceutical industry immediately jumping in and saying, stop. They had it ready as if they knew it. They had the packets ready for Fox Pharma. They had the packets ready for Joe. May I just play just a reminder clip of RFK Jr. when he had a dinner with Rupert Murdoch, who owned Fox News? Just for a reminder as to how that works, and it'll make us all feel much better about what happened.
Anderson Cooper is sponsored by Pfizer. Aaron Burnett is sponsored by Pfizer. The NBC Nightly News is sponsored by Merck. And Roger Ailes told me...
Roger Ailes, who I knew. Roger Ailes, not Murdoch, but Ailes when he ran it.
Very well, and it was the founder of Fox News. I didn't agree with him politically, but we were friends. We spent a couple of months together in a tent. I was 18 years old in Africa. I had this, good relationship with him. And he understood the issue of vaccine injury. He had a personal experience with vaccine injury, where a kid who was close to him was injured. And so he knew it was true. And I had helped make a film, a documentary about it a couple of years before he died, when he was still at the height of his powers. And I asked him, can I come on? I didn't want to play it on Fox, but I wanted to come on Fox and talk about it. And he said, I can't let you do that. And he said, in fact, if any of my hosts allowed you on their show, I'd have to fire them. And if I didn't, I would get a call from Rupert within 10 minutes.
So just so you know, that's what's going on. The call, If you had done that, a call in 10 minutes, the pharmaceutical industry, they were ready. All the producers knew it. Hey, if anything crazy, here's your packet. Here's what you say. Here's the studies. Here's what your food. Oh, in fact, here's a thumb drive. You can plug it right into your prompter and suck out the copy.
It's shameful and naked. Cavuto should be ashamed of himself.
No, I mean, I'm happy that happened, because now you see, it's not just CNN and MSNBC. Fox Pharma, top of the list.
Well, they definitely did their bit. So anyway, Kayleigh continues with her little bit, and she just kind of wraps it up with another kind of a semi-slam. So here she's finishing on her little complaint to the media about their coverage.
You cited are studies, though. They're trials that are in their early phases. Do you have any evidence that thousands of frontline workers are currently using it because they believe it actually will prevent them from getting COVID-19?
The FDA has approved this for off-label use. This president's a big believer in right-to-try legislation. People who are in their last...
Say what?
She's really a master at throwing back the liberal memes. The right to try thing came out of the liberal side of the political spectrum.
Good point.
It actually will prevent them from getting COVID-19.
The FDA has approved this for off-label use. This president's a big believer in right-to-try legislation. People who are in their last... There are several studies that have been brought that the president has actually mentioned that I'd refer you to. There was one out of France, a French study involving more than 1,000 patients that found that the vast majority had, quote, good clinical outcomes, and by the vast majority, that was more than 90%. There was an Italian study of more than 65,000 patients that demonstrated only 20 tested positive of those who were taking it prophylactically, and a South Korea study as well. So there are several studies, and if you're someone out there and this is a safe drug to use, and your doctor, importantly to underscore that, and your doctor prescribes it for your use as a prophylaxis or after coming into contact with COVID, then it's something you should take if it's prescribed by the doctor, and that's your personal medical choice.
Yeah, the pharmacy board in Texas, they had put a restriction on hydroxychloroquine. That's been lifted. This is more and more evidence that thousands of healthcare workers are taking it as a prophylactic. And, of course, it's supposed to really only work with zinc, because what it does is it loosens up whatever it needs to, and then in goes the zinc, and you're good to go. But this gave great fodder for lots of people, and I think to their detriment. I don't think it was smart what Speaker of the House and head honcho Democrat Pelosi did here.
What's your reaction to the president saying that he's now...
Oh, other than her little banter with Anderson Pooper, that was cute.
What's your reaction to the president saying that he's now taking hydroxychloroquine? Are you concerned?
Well, first let me say how happy I am about your new baby. How lovely.
Oh,
Wyatt, how perfectly named.
Now, what's this Wyatt? Was it a Wyatt Vanderbilt that I'm unaware of? How perfect.
I think she's thinking of Wyatt Earp.
Why is that so perfectly named? What is Wyatt Earp?
Gunslinger.
Oh, yeah.
Just like Anderson Pooper. That guy's a gunslinger, man.
We all know why that is, and congratulations. And as you now are a father, you see how important it is to keep the world safe for the children.
As far as
the president is concerned, he's our president, and I would rather he not be taking something that has not been approved by the scientists, especially in his age group and in his, shall we say, weight group, what is morbidly obese, they say. So I think it's not a good idea.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. Of course, Republicans got their panties all in a bunch. Yeah, fine. Let's talk to a scientist. Let's talk to Dr. Drew, who, despite his many bobbings and weavings, we've stuck along with his advice. Not a big fan of his Fauci love and worship, but if you want the truth on something, Drew will do his best to give it to you.
Does this make medical sense? Yes. Listen, people have got to separate politics from the practice of medicine. Everything he said was absolutely accurate. It has been around for 40 years. It's been prescribed hundreds of millions of times for malaria. I personally have prescribed it hundreds of times for malaria, hundreds of times for rheumatic diseases. I've never seen one adverse side effect. I can't say that of Tylenol. I can't say that of aspirin. Now, every medication has risk. That's just the way it is. But in a otherwise healthy person with maybe a rheumatic condition or to prevent malaria, it's a very safe medication. Do not confuse it with chloroquine. That's different than hydroxychloroquine.
Okay, so
different medicines.
So the FDA put out a warning about both hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. They said this warning in April that it can cause a dangerous abnormality in heart rhythm in virus patients. Said about both of them, and that only in hospitals should it be used and in clinical trials. This is not being used in a hospital and not being used as a clinical trial.
Correct. That's the FDA standard. Doctors are entitled to do anything they want with a medication. They take on a certain degree of liability. They do when they do that, different than when something is FDA approved. We use off-label medication all the time. Some of our more common prescribing is off-label, not FDA approved. Now, this is for not a hospital setting, not a COVID setting. It's being used for prophylaxis. Doctors take it themselves for prophylaxis. They prescribe it for patients for prophylaxis.
But the FDA says that there's no evidence that works.
No, because that study's not been done yet. They're talking about the treatment of COVID.
No,
in the treatment of COVID.
Preventatively, there's no study that shows that works. The president is doing this to prevent, unless he's had coronavirus,
that is correct.
And he's lying about it.
Doctors can prescribe it prophylactically. I know many doctors are doing it. I know many doctors that are taking it themselves because there's some evidence that it might be prophylactic, and it is so safe. So they feel like rather than do nothing, they'd rather do the chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, not the chloroquine, which does have cardiac side effects. The studies on hydroxychloroquine and the cardiac effects have yet to be washed out.
So
who's that guy arguing with him?
He's a podcast, like a suit YouTuber, a big show, but I don't know, who the hell knows? Just people who want to argue. And so kind of to wrap up the last 43 minutes, if you look at the amount of incredible confusion that's out there that is freaking people out and messing up their minds, intelligent people, mainly because they've been programmed into not, looking at any other news sources. And then again, if you look at the news, those other news sources, they're all spouting the same message for the big owners behind it, like the pharmaceutical company. And then you have these, our tribes. This is actually kind of an interesting observation. Because, of course, with the Rogan announcement, there's all kinds of analysis of what's going on with podcasting. And apparently across the board, podcasting consumption has been down during the corona crisis. And many people attribute that to a lack of commuting, which I think is true. But I also think it's the type of content. Most content is nice bubble gum for when you're doing something else, when you're on your way into work. It's news oriented, it's probably showbiz oriented, or some other thing. Whatever it is, it's not critical to your life. But what happens with some shows, and I think that our media tribe here is one of those, is that people come to us and they hear at least some filtering of the bull crap that's around them, so they can calmly. And we're also calm. Have we freaked out once in the past 3 months? And there it is. We've lost him, ladies and gentlemen. It's calm and it's calming and it makes you feel good. And this brings me to Mike Rowe, who was on the Rubin Report. Just 2 quick clips. I encourage, it's in the show notes, nashownotes.com. Encourage everyone to watch the full hour. Mike Rowe and he's very no agenda minded and oriented in his thinking. And he says that what he is seeing with this kind of opening up, and we're starting to carefully figure out where we're going and what we're doing, but have we really? And no, I think people are so freaked out they don't know what to wait for. They don't know what the signal is. They don't know what the all clear is. And he says it's very simple to the 5 stages of grief.
I've been comparing it to the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief, right? I mean, the country's grieving in a sense, but we're all at different levels and we're all grieving at different speeds. And we're trying to process a lot of information and a lot of data without a ton of context or perspective. And so what you wind up getting with that, in my view anyway, is the opportunity to look around and go, oh, look, he's in denial and he's bargaining and she's depressed and she's angry and that one's accepted it. But what have they accepted exactly? Have they accepted the reality of the virus, the reality of the lockdown, or this weird space that requires us to somehow navigate both?
And then he goes into a full theory about the safety first culture and how when you are told that you are safe because a company is looking out for you, safety is your safety is our number one job, or this car is so safe. What do? We start to take risks. we start to let the Tesla auto drive for a little bit, and all kinds of things. Like, I don't have to worry too much about looking over my shoulder anymore. I got those beep beep things on my mirrors, and so we really don't understand and can't measure risks as human beings, as we cannot understand the risk of a COVID-19, which really you have to be older than 65 to be or sick to be seriously worried, versus automobile accidents. There's probably still a little bit more automobile deaths in the United States on an annual basis. Let's not talk about the hundreds of thousands who are maimed and cut up and can't walk and turn into vegetables. It's hundreds of thousands, yet we don't lock down cars and tell people they can't drive anywhere but in the neighborhood. And here's how he looks at that kind of risk assessment.
Exploring the unintended consequences of a safety-first culture through the lens of a quarantine was, to me, a really interesting rumination, because we can be a safety-first country, but only for very, very, very short periods of time. And then we're reminded that the chief goal of living is not to merely stay alive, at least not for most people. And then this fascinating conversation starts to unfold. So that's a long way of saying that for the last 60 days or so, I've seen a lot of conversation right around a couple topics that I love, specifically homeostatic risk, compensatory risk equilibrium, and all the subconscious things we do to maintain our own illusory relationship with the illusion of safety.
And so just, like the example of driving and automobiles and death, the consequences of shutting down cities, countries, and globes, and yes, economies, no one thought about it. And the risk was not mitigated at all. And worse, we collectively went, no, we trust the scientists because we've been taught to trust the scientists. And now, if you look at the UK is pushing harder. Their media is assisting more. At least it's Channel 4. It's not the BBC yet. They had this the SAGE, SAGE, that was the recommendation board that recommended what actions to take, and they were listened to. It was very important. Neil Ferguson, of course, was also a key member of SAGE with his 2 million people dead in America model, built on 13-year-old undocumented code. And so now people are questioning, well, first you wanted to go for herd immunity, and then you wanted to close everybody down, and did we make the right decision in hindsight? And so this has been going around on the UK Twitters, where this Channel 4 newswoman is grilling one of these SAGE members, and he's not doing well.
I mean, did you change your mind on herd immunity?
No.
What is your...
I don't know what you mean by that. Herd immunity is just a thing. Yeah, herd immunity or population immunity is what
But for a period in March, the government appeared to be pursuing a strategy of mitigating the spread of the virus, allowing Cheltenham races, for example, to go ahead between March the 10th and March the 13th, allowing it to spread naturally, to allow the development of some herd immunity. Was that a mistake?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure whether that really was the strategy. I think that at the time it was difficult to imagine. We weren't sure by what levels of compliance with various social distance measures were possible.
Was that why you didn't model full lockdown until the middle of March?
I think it was very hard. I don't think anybody looked at it. It wasn't just myself. I don't think anybody. We all looked at a range of different measures, some of which were very stringent. But it was, it's difficult to say, but it was difficult to imagine just how. Well, in some sense, it was difficult to imagine just how easy the lockdown was, if you see what I mean.
Oh, yeah, we see what you mean. They were all jitty, John. Oh, look how easy they're going. Oh, crap. Stay home, you idiots.
Of our thesis that it may be actually testing us.
Yeah. Now, we can't finish this up without talking about Sweden. I've received extensive written boots-on-the-ground reports over Sweden, and let's just make sure we understand a few things. To say Sweden did not shut down is a lie. Bull crap, bullshit, lie, not true. We saw the Apple mobility data. Their transit numbers had dropped to minus 40%. They were staying home. They were expected to stay home. Restaurants were not open. It was curbside and pickup only. Many companies already were prepared for at-home work. And please also note that the typical Swedish home only has 2 people, so you don't have grandma and the kids bringing home stuff and infecting Big Mama and Pop and getting them sick. Very different situation, but they most certainly did social distance. They did all of that. In fact, they followed the WHO guidelines to the T. They're so compliant. And they love it. The people who have written to me say, we actually feel we're a little bit superior to the rest of you all. Look at Greta. We are superior. We know how to do it. That's why they're being very quiet about their strategy, because it turns out they're going to have just about the same amount of deaths. And that's because ultimately that no lockdown was necessary. That's what we're starting to see. Let's listen to Swedish scientist John Giesecke, who explains here to Sky Australia really how the lockdowns were inefficient, and he has a few questions about where to go from here. Not inefficient, ineffective, I should say.
You painted yourself into a corner, and I'm watching with interest how you and 100 other countries will climb out of the lockdown. Because I don't think any government that I know gave a minute's thought about how they would get out of the different lockdowns that are installed. Take a school closure, for example. If you close the schools, when are you going to open them? What's the criteria? I don't think anyone thought about that when the closure was decided on. And I think there's very little chance to stop it by any measure we take. Most people will become infected by this, and most people won't even notice. We have data now from Sweden that shows that between 98 and 99% of the cases have had a very mild infection or didn't even realize they were infected. This spread of this mild disease around the globe, and most of it is happening where we don't see it. It's among people that don't get very sick, spread it to someone else who doesn't get very sick. And what we're looking at is a thin layer at the top of people who do develop disease, an even thinner layer of people that go into intensive care, and an even thinner layer of people who die. But the real outbreak is happening where we don't see it. But you may succeed, and New Zealand may also succeed. But I've been asking myself, when New Zealand or Australia has stamped out every case in the country, what do you do for the next 30 years? Will you close your borders completely, quarantine for everyone who's going to Australia or New Zealand? Because the disease will be out there. I don't know how you're going to handle that, but that's your problem.
Screw you, New Zealand. That's your problem. So it appears that everything was done exactly wrong. And this was the advice of the scientists who should have known better. The majority, that's over 50, but I think it's closer to over 60 in general across the world, of people who died were over 65 and elderly, and many in care facilities.
A lot were in their 90s. A lot were dying anyway.
Many were already in hospice because they didn't want to die in the hospital. I do have Governor Cuomo's rebuttal towards the accusation that he killed 5,000 people by forcing sick people to be kept at the nursing homes. If you'd like, I think it's worth it because, again, I don't blame him. Because stuff is done during emergencies and people make decisions. and mistakes.
Yeah, well, I
made.
blame him for allowing the Trump death thing to be sitting up there on Times Square. The death meter. And blaming Trump for everything. That's what I blame him for. But yeah, I think you should play this.
So here's the opening question from the journalist.
Say to families who've suffered losses inside nursing homes, and they're looking for accountability and they'd like to see justice. For example, I've recently interviewed a family, 3 siblings. They've had 2 nursing home losses within a few weeks.
Just so we know, there's no doubt that there was an executive order that put sick people in the nursing homes. This is not in dispute. It's like, but this killed people, and people feel that that decision killed people, and he's being asked about it, and his deflection is phenomenal.
A family, 3 siblings, they've had 2 nursing home losses within a few weeks of one another on 2 separate floors in the same facility here in Albany. They felt so much solace when you got up and talked about Matilda's Law. And they said, great, we're protected. Like, our loved ones are going to be okay because of Matilda's Law. And then their loved ones passed away because they couldn't get the testing. So they're looking for accountability, and they feel that they were failed. What's the comment to that?
Yeah, the comment is this, and I have those conversations all day long with people who have lost people, right? We lost 139 people yesterday in hospitals. Who is accountable for those 139 deaths? Well, how do we get justice for those families who had 139 deaths? What is justice? Who can we prosecute for those deaths? Nobody. Nobody. Oh. Mother Nature, God, where did this virus come from? People are going to die by this virus. That is the truth.
So he doesn't answer the question at all, deflects to the 139 people who died yesterday, and keeps doing it. In fact, fuck it, let's make it about me.
Older people, vulnerable people, are going to die from this virus. That is going to happen, despite whatever you do. Because with all our progress as a society, we can't keep everyone alive. Despite everything you do. And
isn't that crazy?
Older people are more vulnerable.
Then don't send sick people to their facility.
And that is a fact, and that is not going to change. And look, to me, the really difficult conversations for me
deflection
are, my son was 40 years old. He was not a senior citizen, did not have a comorbidity, and got this virus because he was an essential worker and doing the right thing, and had an aneurysm.
I'm sure that was COVID related.
I thought young people were fine. And he was doing the right thing as an essential worker. You know, there's a randomness to this virus that is inexplicable.
He will not address it. He'll never admit it. He won't admit there was even a mistake made. There's not even a fall guy. It's just, no, shut up. Even when...
Talk about not unapologetic.
Even when pressed again.
They're saying still that if the mandates that are currently in place right now that we've all just been talking about in here were in place from the get-go, they feel that their loved ones might still be here.
I don't... Look. People rationalize death in different ways.
No, it's about the cause of death we'd like to rationalize.
I don't think there is any logical rationale to say they would be alive today.
Oh.
We always had...
Sure.
I said from day one,
God.
The fear is we overwhelm the hospital system. And then people die because we couldn't get them the medical care. That was an accountable, avoidable situation. That was Italy, by the way. People died in hallways, on gurneys, in hospitals, because the doctors and the nurses were overwhelmed. And because they didn't have a ventilator, they didn't have a doctor available, and people died.
What's that got to do with you?
That is a heartbreak. Because then you say, they didn't have to die. If the doctor had gotten to my mother would have been alive. That's what we protected against. And we did it successfully.
Yeah, you protected against that, but you didn't protect those poor people. Which brings me to the question.
Jeez, what an idiot.
They keep coming back to, we needed to protect the system, the hospital system, so it wasn't overwhelmed. Well, mission accomplished. You've killed the people who actually flood the hospital system when something is going on. That won't happen again. And I don't know. You know, Medicare, old people, they're very profitable for the system, but they clog it up. So you almost have to wonder, was it just, hey, you know, if we can get rid of a whole bunch of old people, wouldn't that be good for the insurance business and the hospital system moving forward? We'd rather have young people we can tell them they're unhealthy.
It's a dual-edged sword. First of all, you have the old people who do make money for the system, but they don't make money for the insurance companies.
Exactly. So that we had to get rid of them.
Insurance companies make money for themselves and for the system, and so it's only the insurance companies who's got a dog in the hunt, because the healthcare system doesn't care if you're old or young, because they get the money.
They get the money no matter what.
And in fact, many of them I've talked to when I had my cataract operation. I talked to one of the people that was setting the whole thing up about payments and how much you have to pay for this and that, and what's the best system, and what's the best insurance company, who does the best job. And she just said flat out that as far as she's concerned, and I got this verified, Medicare is the best. They're very reliable. You send them a bill, you know they get the fees are fixed. You know what money you're going to get.
Yeah, insurance companies don't like that.
Insurance companies argue with everything. No, that's too much. Can I pay? No, and they stall. In fact, I had a doctor here in the area that he had to close his entire practice, which is what people said that would happen. It's never going to happen. It did. This guy closed his practice because he had to have too many full-time people on the phone arguing with insurance companies about every single charge.
I know, it's the worst.
And his theory, he had a theory. I talked to him about this. He says he thinks that they just do this, hoping that sometimes they get, that they win a battle, but they'll argue everything, every single charge, and it's just this nightmare. It's
30 cents on the dollar is what they want to pay out. That's it, 30 cents on the dollar, and they get away with it. So I think killing off a whole bunch of those Medicare fuckers was a win for them.
It probably was for the insurance companies.
Well, there you go.
The evil doers.
And they didn't want them in the hospitals. We don't want them in the hospital. If someone would actually do some work, Matt Taibbi, I just subscribed to his whatever his thing, his new thing. See that this is the same example.
Andrew Sullivan scam.
Well, scam or not, he does real work, and I'll gladly support it.
It's an attempt to make money because Taibbi can't get enough work.
Right, so I'm supporting him. Hell, it's only like $40 a year or something, but hell yeah. Support that guy. It's because it will not happen.
His material is quite good. It's very reasonable. He's a progressive lefty that has a very steadfast, middle-of-the-road style of true journalism. He does not slant his story. He slants his stories in the way we slant our stories, which is to slam the media for doing a piss-poor job of everything.
I would love to hear your origins of SARS-CoV-2 extravaganza package.
You want to hear it now? Or you
want
to hear it after the break?
I want to hear it now. I think that'll wrap it up
before
nicely.
We do, I got a little one mention. It was a 7-cart Zephyr. So things have not changed that much.
Okay, economy's still stable as we go, but down, and not stable. It's low, stable, check mark recovery, not in sight.
Okay, so I ran into this podcast again. This is another example who brought on these doctors who are experts in epidemiology. They're research physicians, and one's a one's a PhD in biochemistry. This show is done by Mark Young and a doctor, I don't know his first name, Gladden, Chris Howard, a PhD in biochemistry, and Lynn Howard, an MD who is a pathogenic microbiology and infection disease specialist.
What's the name of the show, the podcast?
The show is called. Oh man, it should be on the sheet. Of something like "Living to 120." I think is the name of it. It's a show about long life, and they changed the topic for this show to discuss the COVID situation with people that have some expertise, and all the information matches what the French Nobel, which is Montagnier, I think is his name, Montagnier, the French Nobel Prize winner in medicine, who pretty much says the same thing, and he extrapolated it from pretty much just looking at the virus. And of course, the argument against Montagnier, and he did this around April 20th of last month. The argument against him was he's a crackpot.
Of course.
So
it's living beyond 120. That's
living beyond 120.
Beyond 120. Yeah.
Now,
also available on Spotify.
This, by the way, this is a mediocre transcription, but it is understandable. I did edit a few things together. I want to mention this before I play this stuff, because this is not information that nobody can uncover. But the thing is, I've noticed that I was looking at Montagnier's material, and all of the slams against him come out of India.
Oh, where they make everything.
Well, they make a lot of stuff there, but they also make a lot of hydroxychloroquine and things that are positive. But I believe that there was a COINTELPRO operation going on when this guy came out with this idea that the Wuhan virus came from this lab. And they planted all these stories in India because the Europeans aren't picking up on CIA scams anymore, where you go, the idea is you find an amenable outlet, you put a story into that outlet in a foreign land,
in the Wuhan Gazette.
You put this stuff out there, and then it comes back, and then you just point to it.
Hello, New York Times here reporting, according to the Wuhan Gazette.
Pretty much. So now I've got 5 clips. It's a lot. And so this is going to be, but most of them are short, except the first one, which gives us a little insight into the virus itself, so we kind of understand that it is a variation on the cold virus, or one of the cold viruses. The other one's a rhino. And it's a necessary background. So this is clip 1.
You have inherent coronaviruses in most animal species. In humans, we have coronaviruses. We have over 100 different variants. And historically, they're nothing more than an annoyance. And by that, I mean, when you consider coronavirus, you're thinking of viral sinus infections, you're thinking of common colds, you're thinking of, when you say you have the kid crud, a lot of that is caused by coronavirus. They have a distinct ability to penetrate epithelium, your first line of defense in the immune system, actually. So when you find a virus that can penetrate that epithelium and activate and enter a host cell, then you pretty much have an annoyance, and it's usually a respiratory issue. It's never been the case where it's been so virulent. Now, thinking back to the 2002-2003 SARS-1, they originally said they found it in a bat cave and this, that, and the other thing. But if you look at...
Did she actually say this, that, and the other thing as a professional broadcaster?
She's not a professional broadcaster, obviously. Any professional broadcaster would never say. She also says okay a lot.
There's a lot more to
but
go.
She hasn't used at the end of the day yet. But this, that,
she's on her way.
Mark Levin, the great one, says that once in a while.
Yeah, 6 half and 2 dozen, whatever.
They originally said they found it in a bat cave and this, that, and the other thing. But if you look at the sequence of SARS, the RNA sequence versus the wild type found in bats, there are many similarities. However, they're not identical. And the assumption is that it made a zoonotic leap from the bat to the human, and in doing so mutated. That sounds reasonable. It does. However, when you look at the sequences themselves, you realize what has changed is not your typical zoonosis mutation. What has changed? You start to dig deeper and find that many years ago, even going back to the 80s or 90s, they have been manipulating viruses to learn more about them. Okay, so by manipulating, I mean they make them more transmissible, more infectious. They make them more virulent once you have the infection. And it supposedly teaches the scientist or the epidemiologist epidemiological behavior and what is possible for the future. This is called gain-of-function research. Gain-of-function research. Okay. Gain-of-function research is very controversial. You have two camps here. You have the scientific community that says why the reward does not outweigh the risk here. Why do this? And then you have the other camp that says it's important. It's important for learning behavior. It's important for potential epidemics and how to address those epidemics. So if we need to make a vaccine or a therapy, knowing where it's going is helpful in getting a leg up on that. In the wrong hands, these pathogens can be really, really problematic.
Right.
Yes.
So that's our background.
Right.
And
So,
I like this. I never heard.
Yeah, let's explain that.
Gain of function.
Yeah, the gain of function is, we have talked about that on this very show. And in the beginning, in fact, because this term has been around, that's where you jack that shit up, and you can do fun stuff with it.
Now, there was a lot of stuff at the beginning of this that we discussed on the show that is disappeared from the internets, and a lot of it had to do with the Wuhan lab, and then it just got short-sheeted by the media. No, it's just a coincidence that lab that specializes in coronavirus research is in the vicinity. It had nothing to do with it. And there's a bunch of people that come out of the woodwork, a lot of them in these Indian publications. I'm going to have to write an essay about this to point out this COINTELPRO operation that's going on. I don't know who's doing it, showing that these Indian publications, which have slammed this poor guy Montagnier, they've smeared him, so he can't do anything anymore. But he kind of figured this out on his own. But these guys are figuring it out too, and others have figured it out, and people know this. And what we're going to hear now is going to be an exposition on why this has to be from that lab, and it's not a debunked theory. The only debunking was of poor Professor Montagnier. And the whole thing is just something. There's a scam going on here. Let's play part.
What?
Let's play part.
There's gambling happening over here? What?
Let's go to part two.
From what I'm finding from the cell lines that they grew the original coronavirus X on, what I'm finding is they've grown them out, did gain-of-function research, figured out ways to make them very infectious and transmissible so they could work on...
You're saying that the COVID-19 is basically man-made in a sense, that it's...
Not in a sense.
Okay, if you want to say in a sense, but yes. That's what I am inferring here. That
we're playing with nuclear weapons here.
Well, and the other thing to jump back to Lynn's point, where when you look at evolutionarily that viruses mutate and jump from species or change hosts, the main driver of those changes is evolutionary pressure to be able to bind better. Okay, it's we need to change. The virus is around for one thing. It's not to make you sick. It's to make more virus.
That's it.
Right? You get sick because your body reacts to the virus. The long and the short of it is, though, when a virus finds a good mode of attachment, you're going to see less change. Okay? Well, the SARS-1 and the SARS-CoV-2 have absolutely identical means of attachment. From the ACE2 inhibitor binding to S1 splitting to the TMPRSS2 binding site, it opens up and you get exocytosis into the cell, which,
So there is no difference between SARS-1 and SARS-2 in that respect.
Except for the internal dynamics of the virus.
It's different.
Which is not in wild type, where you usually see viruses changing.
Right.
Are we saying that SARS was man-made also? SARS-1?
It very well could have been.
So wasn't the gain of function research, that's what was outlawed? That was stopped because, or it was the funding was pulled back?
My understanding is what was outlawed was the chimeras,
right?
Which is used for a gain of function development, and the chimeras where you take two different viruses and you combine aspects of both of them, and make a monster, which is what this appears to be. And that research was going on, I think, in Fort Detrick, and then they got kicked out of the country. Yeah. That's where the $3 or $4 million and Dr. Fauci and the Wuhan lab come into play because that's where the money went there, because they can still do it legally, and so that's what they're working on.
Is it, if I look at the preconditioning that I have for this from movies and television shows, wouldn't it be that since part of it was basically manufactured in a lab, where you call it, whatever you call it, gain of function, chimera, however it's put together, someone has the key. Someone has the main thing that you need to put the vaccine together, don't you?
Well, I think of some of these new machines that do splicing, gene splicing, and other things. They don't explain how specifically it was done, but those are high tech methodologies that are not patentable, but they're trade secrets. I mean, you're not going to find out how they did it,
right? But just the fact that someone was there when they created it, so the reverse engineering and we need this antibody or this particular gene widget, we can make this mRNA vaccine with it, which is all different from the way everything's ever been done.
Is another issue, but this is a side note.
Okay.
But I'm reading all this documentation on Montagnier, and he's the one who discovered there's HIV material in here. But I'm going to read from one of the papers written in India, because they're mocking him. Oh, the guy's an idiot. He turns out to be a vaxxer guy, and he also thinks homeopathy is not a bad thing.
Oh,
so he's
everything wrong with him. Go away, you.
He says he also did this in a mocking sense. The guy says he argued during a TV interview with the French channel that elements of HIV-1 retrovirus, which can be co-discovered, which he co-discovered, can be found in the genome of the new coronavirus. He also said elements of the malaria germ, the parasite Plasmodium falciparum. I can't pronounce it.
What would work against the malaria thing? Do we have anything in the arsenal?
Hydroxychloroquine.
No, are you kidding me?
So I'm thinking that they built in an automatic back door.
Yeah,
that's like a back
savior.
Door.
Yeah, that's the no. It's not the back door. It's like the kill switch. It's like
you want to call it that. So you have this, and no one's talked about this, by the way, and I've only spotted it in a couple of articles.
Holy crap.
And so that would make nothing but sense. Then it says, okay, well, what happens if this gets out? Because you have to have that on your mind if you're not really trying to create a bioweapon.
Right.
Or even if you are creating a bioweapon, what can we do to stop it so we don't get it? And you slip in a little aspect that just gets killed. That just dies.
How about that, huh? That's interesting.
So that I found that interesting, and that wasn't discussed in this piece that I can tell. But anyway, let's go on to part 3.
It very well could have been.
But with regards to COVID, you're thinking...
Well, let's first back up. Let's not call it COVID. Okay. Because COVID is the infectious disease process. COVID is exhibiting the disease caused by the virus. If we're talking about virus right now, let's talk about SARS-CoV-2. That's what the etiological agent is for the disease state.
Okay, let's talk about SARS-CoV-2. So what went into making SARS-CoV-2? Isn't it a chimera? Isn't it a tube?
Right. Well, that's exactly it. And a chimera, by definition, is made in a lab.
So
chimera, just so the audience understands, is basically when you take, and Lynn, you may want to describe it, it's when you take two things and basically fuse them together on some level.
That's a very simplistic way of putting it. It's not so much a fusion, but it is a way of incorporating other characteristics from other viruses to create something. I don't want to speak on motive or why they would do it. My guess is originally maybe they thought, okay, this would be a good way, a good vector, a good depository to create an HIV vaccine. Because the problem with retroviruses is they don't have that ability to penetrate epithelium, to get through that barrier. So vaccinating someone for HIV is very challenging. However, if they could find a way to carry it, maybe another virus, through to the epithelium, to deposit vaccine or antigen in this case, that maybe that's a mode of transmission or a mode of action.
Wow, let me see if I can get this right. What I'm hearing her say is that, and perhaps the reason why the gain-of-function research continued under the auspices of Fauci and the NIH money in the Wuhan lab is, of course, the lifelong mission of Dr. Fauci to come up with the AIDS vaccine, and they were trying to find a virus that would be able to inject some kind of vaccinational property against AIDS. Wow! This is a great find. That's very interesting. And we had what's the name of it? Isn't it? It's like a parachute. You know, it's like, and if it goes wrong, just grab some hydroxychloroquine and you're safe. It's like an ejector seat, only less violent.
I would say what you said is, let's assume everything you said is true. Why are they keeping this information from the public, and why are they not? Why is the hydroxychloroquine thing being suppressed? And why does Trump know all this stuff? Now, there's going to be two more confirmations of some of Trump's assertions. One of them is the hydroxychloroquine. He was on that early. Why did he? Who read him in on this? And second, he says that the virus is going to go away magically, and he uses the term. How? And these guys will say the same thing, and they'll explain why in the next couple of clips. So Trump knows something, and he has to assume Fauci's up to his ears in this, so he knows something.
He knows. And Fauci has also been,
Boy, he's behind it. He's not even read in. He's the guy doing it.
Yes.
So why is this information being not only suppressed, but you're being called a crackpot if you're the case of a Nobel Prize winning doctor in medicine who just saw this? He can see it a mile away. Why is this not only being suppressed, but being the opposite story is being told to freak out the public? I mean, this is not what is going on. I mean, I'm very annoyed by these clips, by the way. You have no idea how mad I was listening to these clips. Because we've been talking about this the whole time.
You're still in the anger stage.
Yes, that's probably exactly it. Okay, here we go with Origins of Cars 4.
When they first uncoded, supposedly, the genome of SARS-CoV-2, there were 4 subsets that are identical to portions of the genome of HIV. Which it's like finding a different alphabet in between letters of your alphabet that just got there accidentally.
Yeah, it's impossible in nature for this to occur.
That was my question. This couldn't have happened. This couldn't have evolved.
I'm going to put some stuff in the show notes because we were talking about it. When is hydroxychloroquine effective against SARS-1? And the first thing that pops up is a article from Fauci's outfit at NIH, 2005. Chloroquine is a potent inhibitor in SARS coronavirus infection and spread. And if SARS-1, the basics of it, the carrier, the shell, the tank, if that is equivalent to SARS-1, then this knowledge is quite well known inside the NIH.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this.
This is what's annoying.
Well, because the only thing I can think, there's only a couple things. Control, vaccine, money. What else is there?
Well, it's a good, it's one of those things where you say that you don't let a good
crisis go to waste. Everybody's jumping in on it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's money to be made. Let's make some money. The public doesn't need to know all this stuff because they're, who gives a shit? They're stupid anyway. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you end up with a situation that you just had at your house with the woman that's, freaky. She's 6 feet away from you, and damn dinner party. I have one similar coming up. Jay's old college roommate, best friend, came back from China. She escaped China some time ago before, she was teaching there. Mm-hmm. And she's going to – so Jay says to me, they're going to be driving down to Palm Springs to visit her grandmother, who's 90-something.
Yeah.
And she says she wants to know if they can park up on the driveway so they can spend the night. And I said, we got an extra bedroom. Just have them sleep in there.
Were they sleeping in the car?
Yeah. And I said, well, why don't you just have them sleep there? She says, oh, no, she doesn't want to come in because she's afraid that, if anything happens and it kills her grandmother, she'll never forgive herself. And
I can understand this to a degree.
Yeah, I can kind of get that too.
I mean, but honestly, it's like Christina, her grandma, I told you, her grandma turned 94. She had to go visit, and the grandma's in a Pope mobile without wheels. Just a glass Pope mobile, and you hey, how you doing? And it's like, Tina's going to see her mom. She's not doing great. Well, she's doing much better than she was, but you're going to go see her. So she can't actually go see her. She can be with her sisters, but, decides not to be with one sister because it could infect them. When someone's older, when you're up in the upper 70s, that's exactly who we should be protecting. So I'm all for that, actually. And, they look, these people know what you are. You're probably a Republican. They don't want anything to do with you.
And I am not a Republican.
No, I know, but that's
unaffiliated.
I know that's what people think, though. These wonderful girls who were here last night, they know for sure I'm not a Democrat. And we're able to have but that's an insult to call me anything because I'm completely unaffiliated. But when I say, well, so what will make you feel comfortable so we can open back up, or when will you not put a mask on? And the answer is, well, other countries do it all the time. So this is very normal. We can just wear masks when we're out, and it just can be a thing, and it came out of it like China. I'm like, okay, but I said, well, there's a lot of other information. And that's where the brain freeze comes in. Teacher, and she knows how to research. They're like, yeah, man, there's so much. And people either you bypass and go straight to the information. You can get it. Then the journals are out there. It's a lot of work. You can listen to our show or there are shows like it who filter it down and bring you some information. But if you're really only consuming the mainstream, who clearly, including Fox Pharma News, are controlled by China and the pharmaceutical industry, and
you're getting bad product.
Shit product. Dog crap product. Exactly.
Yes, it's bad product. And these people should be ashamed of themselves. And they're making a lot more money than we are. But that's beside the point. Did you finish clip 4?
No. Yes. 5 is on deck.
Okay. Here's clip 5. And this is in summary, I think this is an important clip because there's nothing that in these clips that we haven't discussed in one way or the other. And I got more clips on the Sunday show coming from the same interview because they talk about hydroxychloroquine and some other things. But this clip is important to pay attention to because I think this is going on. And I think, again, this is why Trump knows something. Here we go.
Again, if evolutionary pressure usually is based on the binding. It doesn't change the internal RNA, DNA strands of viruses because they know what they're going to make. You'll also find with chimeras, as they reproduce themselves, you get a shift back towards the natural type or the wild type, the original
it's not natural.
Sequence.
It's not natural. So as it goes through patient after patient and population after population, when you hear there are now 30 strains, it's not really 30 strains. They're still identical binding. Yeah. It's just kind of changing enough to revert back to the wild type.
Yeah, I look forward to what you got on Sunday. This is very good.
Now, let's go back to what she just said. This explains a lot. This explains why when it first got out of the lab, and we talked about that in the last show with the satellite data and the imagery and the cell phone usage around the lab, when it got out, everyone freaked out.
Right.
And this was the first generation. And the first generation would be the most virulent, the worst, the most deadliest. And that's the one that killed a lot of people, and they had to shut down the whole area.
Right.
And that's the one that got into Italy because the garment manufacturers in Italy have all been taken over by the Chinese, many of them based in Wuhan, and they were going right into Italy, northern Italy specifically.
Direct
flights, boom, 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 and they got in there and they contaminated Italy with the early versions of the virus. And that's when you started talking about the idea, well, there's two versions of the deadly one and the non-deadly one. No, this was the same thing that was deteriorating, and that the 35 strains, which is unusual, is a part of the deterioration process. And so those Italians got the early part of it, were still virulent.
They were on the front lines. They took the first breaking fire.
They took the hit.
Yeah, they did. They took a direct hit. New York, too. Direct hit from Wuhan. Direct flights. Incoming. Direct hit. War. We're at war, John.
And so, meanwhile, the West Coast, we pretty much, and the Chinese that live out here, pretty much cut off all Wuhan stuff. And so we have a mild, many generations later, and you go to places like Wyoming and South Dakota where there's nothing, and if they're going to get any viruses, it's going to show up. It's going to be back to this old, just a common cold type of coronavirus. So this thing is going downhill fast,
reverberates
just
out.
like SARS. And people say, "Oh, we're going to have to do this for the next 20 years. Every fall, we're going to have a horrible outbreak." What happened to the original SARS? That thing was done in 4 months.
Another thing that I've heard in anecdotal research from people outside of this house is I wish that the government would communicate the information better. And I think that our government does communicate the information, but it's distorted between the government and you. The only place you can get it is from Trump's Twitter feed, and at least 50% of the United States has been programmed to believe that is only bad and, well, it will kill you, as we just heard. It will kill you. So there's, it's been distorted, and I hope that people coming out of this see that, wait a minute, we're not being served, and we didn't know crap. And if they really don't understand that it's the messenger in between, then those people, they're not going to last long. It's going to, because they're going to try again in November. They're going to try this again.
It's unhealthy.
Yeah.
So anyway, that I found to be a very unique, a very good presentation, and reasonable. And it's the only thing. And the thing about this all makes sense. I mean, for one thing, a lot of people talk about the horseshoe bat. They don't sell those at the wet market, so that wasn't a bat. The bat thing's bullshit. And then now the biggest scandal is, the Chinese are destroying the virus, and they're not going to let our people go in and see. They're destroying that first generation because that's the deadly one. They got to get rid of it. They can't keep it around because apparently their lousy lab can't keep anything intact.
It'll hurt you bad. Well,
now, before we break, I could go and finish this with Kaylee because she discusses this a little bit. But I can
I'd like a full Kaylee block if you don't mind. I think you can. I'd like 3 scoops of Kaylee after the break.
Well, there's only 2 scoops of Kaylee left.
Oh,
but we can do it after the break.
Can I have some sprinkles on it then?
Well, I split one of them in 2, so you got your 3 scoops.
Well, before we do that, we need to uplift everybody and let you know that everything's going to be okay. We're on the front lines of opening here in Texas. Yes, even Austin. And I can tell you that people are going into the HEB without masks. People are going with masks. I see no apparent evidence of stink eye. Now, remember, we're on the east side of Austin, so it's not quite the same as Westlake or the Hill Country or Tarrytown. But there's no stink eye. People are feeling good. I went to my first spin class yesterday. And it was open. It was, of course, a smaller group than typical, and felt great. I will be hurting very much later on this afternoon and tomorrow. But you know things are going well in Texas when you get this report.
Just everything we possibly can to make sure people have a good time, but it's safe.
Kelly Jones is a manager at the Palazzo Gentlemen's Club in South Austin. He says their employees, along with dancers and entertainers in the industry, have had it tough.
A lot of people don't know that our entertainers are actually independent contractors, much like hairdressers. So they had a lot of issues collecting unemployment. They work on cash tips like a lot of other people in the service industry. So they're struggling as well. A lot of them have families and kids. They're trying to make sure that they have arrangements for childcare, for putting food on the table.
And now they'll be back to work Friday, but with a long list of safety protocols in effect. That includes how many people can get into this building, which normally holds close to 300 people.
We're going to have to cut that down to comply with the governor's order of 25% capacity. Going to be back to the old days with hand clickers, making sure what our capacity is. We're going to have barriers around our stages so that our customers have social distancing from the entertainers. As far as private dances go, they're going to have to maintain that 6-foot division between them.
But of course, there are also a bar.
That's a shitty lap dance, man. 6 foot.
6 foot. I beat me to it. What kind of a lap dance is that?
Division between them.
But of course, there are also a bar and serve food.
We're going to have to go to plasticware instead of nice metal knives and forks, paper napkins, placemats, plastic cups. Bartenders and our staff are going to make sure that we follow hand washing policies. Our employees definitely are wearing masks,
including the entertainers.
So we encourage them to be creative, find something they like that maybe goes with their outfits.
And they'll also have employees specifically designated for constantly cleaning the place. And while it won't be a full house inside,
believe me, they were constantly cleaning that place before COVID.
By any means, they're just glad to get business moving again.
I'm so proud of Texas. Way to go.
Yes, the beaches are back open. Woohoo!
Well,
yeah.
It's the Texas beaches. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your courtesy in the morning to you, the man who put the C in SARS-CoV-2, John C. Dvorak.
Yeah, well, in the morning to you, Mr. Adam Curry. Also in the morning to all boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
And a big in the morning to the trolls who are in the troll room. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1,500. Not bad for a Thursday. Of course, we're in full lockdown mode still for most. Although I think we've got a lot of essential personnel. Dude's named Ben, Dudette's named Bernadette, medical personnel. We got a lot of people. And so happy. And they're trolling hard right now. Well, NoAgendaStream.com is where you can join in the fun. The trolls are there 24 hours a day. There's all kinds of live shows. If you checked in last night, you would have gotten a live Nick the Rat, I think, is Wednesday nights. Also,
Nick the Rat. Also
other podcasts that you can discover there, NoAgendaStream.com. And while you're there, ask for an invitation to NoAgendaSocial.com, which was actually down earlier this morning. Let me see.
Was it?
Yeah, it could have been for some maintenance. Remember, this is run by. No, it's up. It's fine. There we go. No Agenda Social is good. We've got Aaroner running the show over there, so it's under a lot of weight, a lot of images. Being a member of the Fediverse is not trivial, but it works. NoAgendaSocial.com, and we would like to thank the artist who brought us the artwork for episode 1243. We titled that "Obamable." And this was the tennis balls from Mike Riley, which now we had a long discussion about the art, I remember.
Yes.
And of course, the tennis balls were referring to the regulations of not kicking or touching anyone else's balls in New York. And what else was in the running? There were a number of things.
Well, it was a lot of art.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go look at this too, because it's probably, the artists do appreciate us deconstructing the art so they can know what to do. There's a couple pieces I've noticed I should mention. There's a piece down called by Rude Dog, it looks like, who did a nice little United States Trace Force Department of Health logo. It's a cute piece, except if you're going to do this, you got to balance the thing out. That Department of Health thing has got to be slid around,
yeah,
over, because it's off center. And we're not, we like these sorts of things, but not if they're off center.
That wasn't, that's something new from today. That wasn't even in consideration.
Well, I saw it from, it is new, but I saw it in the evergreens as I was looking for something for the newsletter. So so now here it is. I told him, so if he has time, if he's listening to the show, he probably is not. I think he's submitted these things just as evergreen ideas. But what else was in this one that was submitted? I like the tennis ball with the No Agenda logo on it. There wasn't, the waves didn't quite work.
Yeah, the truth surge.
You like the tennis balls because of the girls. It was the girls holding the balls.
Yes,
that was
nail polish fingers. Yes. Well, and again, only from a professional standpoint, because I know what people will be attracted to.
Yeah. And there really wasn't
science,
a
man.
lot.
Science.
It wasn't that bad.
Well,
I'm sorry, there wasn't that much. The art it was a hard show to do art for. And now again, by the way, the RIC is coming in. Comic strip blogger once again, as he does constantly, apparently never listens to the show, because I have said a million times that I'm vetoing any art that has a coronavirus art in it.
There it is.
The art. I think it's a creepy looking thing, and I will not accept anything. And he keeps doing it. I don't know if he's doing it on purpose because he's that way.
It always reminds me. And by the way, if you go on an image search, any virus will look like this one. Any rendering of a virus always looks like this. It's a different color, and that makes it corona. It's bullcrap, and it looks like one of those crazy mines from the submarine movies.
Yeah, in this case, it looks like a submine.
Yeah, run silent, run deep, and
right, a mine.
Ice Station Zebra. Those mines look like that. Agreed. Well, we're very appreciative of Mike Riley for doing that artwork for us. It was great value to the show. And I know that it's a fact, it's scientific, that people will gladly click on that because, hey, there's something new going on. It's not the same art throughout the whole list. It's something new. It's exciting, and it's very valuable, and we appreciate that, Mike Riley, and all of the artists, of course, who participate by submitting artwork at noagendaartgenerator.com. Thank you very much. And we'd like to thank our executive producers and associate executive producers for episode 1244 of the best podcast in the universe.
So we have, right off the bat, we got, and right on time, is Sir Anonymous of Dogpatch in Lower Slobovia.
He's back.
He came in with his new coded number, 1094.
Now, what was the previous number?
It was 13 something.
It was 103 something, wasn't it?
No, I think it was 13 something.
We'll never figure this out.
No, this probably has to all be written down, and then you have to use a little thing with holes punched in it.
Cipher. A decoder ring.
Yes,
well, I'm always excited about Sir Anonymous of Dogpatch's note, so I'm sure he sent one with this.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, he did. And his notes are long, but always entertaining. Thank you to the many producers for their invaluable and varied support of the show. The resources remain incredible, although the repair of the Bingit.io search capacity would be useful to listeners like me.
Yes, I have an update. Thank you very much. Several dudes named Ben have presented themselves regarding the Bingit.io broken search.nashownotes.com, which is just it's gone now. It's being redirected. And so multiple people are working on it. They're aware. And I just said, look, here's what it did. It's a search engine. Here's all the data. It doesn't matter. I don't care if we have competing search engines. That could, in some ways, could be even better. But let's get something going. So hopefully someone will come up with something soon. If you look at nashownotes.com, it's obvious we have structured data. Anyone who's done some search engine database work should be able to figure it out. And so It's coming up, Sir Anonymous.
He continues. He says, truth from lack of advertising can survive and thrive by donating. Angelic Knight's steed, Marlborough, took his owner into the sunset. None of us gets out of this alive, but those with faith have something to look forward to at the next level. Without doubt, his chosen knightly name fits his next level. During a recent 4-hour conference call that included 8 medical PhDs, all experienced and high-level professionals in the medical field, their frustration was clear. The frustration emanated from their training and experience being contradicted by bureaucrats. Yet they have to follow guidelines or face consequences. Obstetricians, divorce lawyers, and litigation attorneys will be busy in the third quarter. A suggested paradigm: an angry president whose business empire is severely damaged will seek a perpetrator and, more importantly, look to recover damages.
Oh, yeah.
History shows Trump uses litigation as punishment, believing he can outlast any opponent or bankrupt them along the way. He has heard every insult from union workers or suppliers, from his business methods with indifference. His approach to the media is similar. A cavalier, so sue me. I will still be rich, and you will still be gone long before me. With the Justice Department as the prosecutor and China never paying him a penny, I anticipate he will pursue firms with money. That qualifier spotlights pharmaceutical firms.
Yep.
Now, I'll mention something after I finish reading this. Banks were a great source of fines during the last recovery. Why not healthcare companies, and especially pharmaceutical firms that moved everything to China for their profit benefit, costing the U.S. government trillions? I look for investigations and fines beginning in 2021. Of course, China will be complicit as the contaminator.
I can tell you what's going to happen. There'll be a lot of noise. And then after 3 years, we'll have a great Matt Taibbi piece to look at. That'll be it.
Well, one of the things going on, I think, with this cover-up of the Wuhan lab, and I'm going to call it that, even though the other side would call it a conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm calling it a cover-up because that's what it is. Because there's no evidence that it's the only thing that makes any sense.
I have a series of China clips coming up, so we'll get into that for sure.
That at some point, there's hell to be paid, and I think Fauci's going to have to pay it at some point, even though he's the darling of the left. Anyway, he says he continues to no jingles, no karma. Dame Drive reminder. Gender-specific women on day of donation and immediately prior share equally in credit. So he's talking in code here a lot.
So I think
he's been speaking in a lot of Arabic. His English needs to.
Maybe you need to read it. Maybe you need to
Saudi Arabia.
Maybe you need to read it from right to left.
Yeah. Credit in equally, share, show, prior, immediately, and donation of the day on women, specific gender reminder, drive Dame.
Okay. So I think that means, I don't know what it means. Somehow he gives away his title to a dame who is on show day or before. Oh, man.
An immediate show prior. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what, and it has to be a woman.
Okay, so now do I get the spreadsheet from the last show and then we pick one, or how does that work? I mean, I have the spreadsheet here.
An unknown variable. We'll have to talk about this after the show and make decisions.
Yeah, because I want dames.
We did have the last show. A woman did claim she wanted to get this from him, and she put her, and we still have a woman early on, and I can't remember her name, and I wish she'd come back and say, hey, it was me.
I feel
who
dumb.
Said something that she wanted to be the first dame in his process, and I believe she should be, but I don't know who she is anymore, and I can't read enough of these through these spreadsheets to find her.
By the way,
the woes that we suffer.
Your cold read backwards was better than forwards. It's astounding. Okay. Well, let's do that meeting after the show because
it's not unusual.
I want to make sure we get this done. Thank you so much, Sir Onimus of Dogpatch and Lower Slobovia. We don't know who you are. We love that you send notes through Western Union. We feel privileged to be bestowed with your wisdom. It seems every 4 to 6 weeks, and your wisdom includes your fantastic support of No Agenda. Thank you. Thank you so much. Keeps us away
Onward
from the
with Sir
advertisers.
Walkman of Buckeye, $333.33. ITM Gents. As I open my protectorate back up from the oppressive Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, a rhino, R-I-N-O, Republican in name only, I would like to send a message to slaves. Drink and be merry. Those interested in the No Agenda meetup in Northeast Ohio, drop me a message on No Agenda Social under @Methos. That's @Methos. METHOS.
Yo.
I would like to send a goat karma to my smoking, scratch that, morbidly gorgeous, or perhaps John prefers obscenely gorgeous wife Laura, or nicknamed Toonces, the data queen.
Toonces the data queen.
Toonces the data queen. Sorry, Adam, for that drunk email at 3 a.m. the other night. So it took me 50 minutes to craft that error-ridden sentence about a dementia bee hitting the mouth. No jingles, no karma. Walkman of Buckeye.
So there's no goat for his woman there.
What does he say?
He says, I would like to send a goat karma to my smoke and scratch that morbidly gorgeous. And then he says, no jingle. Oh, just karma. There you go. No jingle, just karma.
Oh, JK, yeah.
Yeah, and he wants the goat. You got it. Here it is, man.
You've got karma.
I got a lot of grief for my complaining about smoking hot.
Oh, really? I got nothing but positive.
Well, good. Well, the grief was good, went along these lines. It's a tradition.
It's a tradition. No, it's not.
Well, okay. Baron Fox bat is next on the list of the Cook Islands, where you get that gorgeous tan. $333.33 in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Hi, John and Adam. Greeting to you both from sunny Cocoa Beach, the Space Coast. Here's my thanks to you for helping everyone cope with the Rona mania that has consumed the information space. As for myself, I have gotten frustrated with the lockdowns in Ohio, so I've decided to take refuge in Florida, where the beaches are open.
Yoo-hoo!
Yeah. Welcome to the America in 2020, where going on vacation is a subversive act. But it seems like Ohio is now opening back up, so I may be returning there shortly. Assuming my neighborhood isn't underwater because of the recent flooding in the area. Anyway, thanks for all that you do. And John needs to stay black. No jingles, no karma, please. Baron Fox bat.
All right. You do that.
I will. Sir Dave. Oh, here we go. Sir Dave Fugazotto, Duke of America's Heartland and the Arabian Peninsula. We should have a jingle for him. He's a duke.
Yes, but even worse than that, I know he's looking for a Fletcher Corona yell, but I can't find that. I looked before the show as I was going to prep it. Maybe Fletcher can email me a copy real quick.
If he's listening.
Yeah, he may be listening.
33320. He's in he's listed as Gladstone, Missouri. He wants a Go Karma and a Gitmo Nation anthem maybe for the end of the show. In the morning, Grubbus and Squirmer. You know who you are. Yeah, I think he's referring to my chair. Eid Mubarak from the kingdom at Ramadan comes to a close in a couple of days. We will be back on a 24-hour lockdown for 5 days in an attempt to break the disease chain. Since the country loosened up on the restrictions during what is Saudi Arabia's equivalent of Thanksgiving to Christmas shopping period with the expected results. Got to flatten that curve. I also want to wish a very happy birthday to my formerly smoking hot wife. Who, for legal purposes, must now be officially referred to as the marvelous Dame Melody of the classic cougar.
Of the craft.
At least it opened up the gates of creativity.
It sure has.
This is when rules open up creativity. I would like to been home for her birthday and graduation because she just got a master's from UT Austin, but no such luck. Thanks a lot, coronavirus. Please insert Fletcher's coronavirus scream here. Please give my classy cougar a huge helping of birthday goat karma, and there's a space at the end of the show. Cue up the Gitmo Nation national anthem. Thank you for your courage, Dave Fugazotto, Duke of America's Heartland and the Arabian Peninsula.
Yes, and in that time, I was not able to acquire the requested jingle, but I will give you another fine one, and I'll make up for it, and Gitmo Nation National Anthem will be programmed for the end. And thank you so much, Sir Dave Fugazotto. We got our eye on you, ladies. They're all good.
Coronavirus. If the Wuhan flu doesn't kill you, then media panic will. Now do whatever the government tells you to do.
You've got karma.
Matthew Deitel in Wentzville, Missouri, 333. Another birthday boy. This donation and the associated executive producership goes to my smoking hot wife. There we go.
Here it is.
Aaron Deitel. Now let's see here. This is not an associate. Oh, associate. Okay, he means executive producership. He just used the word associated.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm sorry.
I know what in context. I know what it means. For her birthday, Friday, May 22nd. We had previously donated for her brother's birthday, and you got my note a bit wrong.
Uh-oh.
TLDR. Too long, didn't read. She is the one who hit me in the mouth after about a month of dating. She's definitely a keeper.
No kidding.
Couples who listen to the best podcast in the universe together stay together. Thanks for keeping us sane with everything going on and providing an excellent perspective on the nonsense in the M5M. Keep up the good work. Matt from Wentzville.
Wentzville. Thank you, Matt.
Wentzville. And the birthday is lined up. Kevin Gargiulo. In Italy.
Faculo Gargiulo.
333 in Sugar Hill, Georgia. First time donor, Kevin. I've been and by the way, thank you for writing out your name. I've been a douchebag according to the best podcast in the universe. Oh, well, here we are. Don't waste any time on jingles, karma, de-douching, or other such frivolities for my sake. I enjoy the show and have recommended it to many to listen to, and it's high time I pitched in. I will try to do better in the future. If you're ever in Atlanta, Georgia, stop in for a Corona beverage, of course.
Thank you. Yes, Kevin. Well, welcome, man. Welcome, citizen. Thank you very much for your support of the show. It is, after all, your podcast and the best podcast in the universe.
Mark Bensick is next on the list from Lansing, Michigan. $250 would be the associate executive producer. ITM purveyors of sanity. Many thanks for this scalpel cutting through the M5M obfuscation to the heart of the truth. I have been remiss in my value for value contract. Here is a simultaneous payment toward my stimulus payment toward my debt. If I may, I would like to hear some kung fu fighting. And I just love the sound of ClimateGate, which 97% of people seem to have forgotten about. Cheers, Mark. Capital of that woman's state. Michigan. That woman, the governor.
And was there also a karma involved in all that?
No, I think we should throw one at him since it's easier.
Okay, here, I think I have some kung fu fighting. Do I? Here we go.
Everybody was a kung flu fighting.
To the gate, to the gate, to the climate gate.
There you go. Remember that? The old climate gate?
Jeez, that's the worst.
You've got karma.
I remember one of the funniest tweets I've ever seen. I don't know why it's so funny to me, but somebody wrote about this kung fu fighting because it was floating around again. He says, I really doubt, and then in quotes, everyone was kung fu fighting.
It's a classic joke for a song from 1973.
Yeah, it hangs in there.
It does. It's still good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sir Daddy Cast comes in with $250 from Richmond, Virginia. Sir Daddy Cast, Baronet of the Love House. Ooh. Giving is love and love is giving. Would like to add my name to the birthday shout-outs for this week, keeping the actual day and age a secret. Also, would appreciate a shout-out to my son's new podcast, The Starting Five. He and four friends, all missing the end of their senior year of high school, thank you very much, have put, which has got to be annoying, have put their extra time toward, you got the dances and all the things you can do, have put their extra time toward a weekly podcast on Tuesdays to avoid any conflict with the best podcast in the universe. If you could give them a shout out for the starting five featuring Josh Reed, Will Bird, and Jameson, that would be very cool. Also, in lieu of a jingle request, their special segment and catchphrase is a hot take. Would it be too much to ask you guys to give them a couple of sound bites? Both saying this is good. This is what I would.
Well, hold on. We're gonna have to produce this. Hold on a second. Let me get the reverb up. All right. Give me a little level. I want to make sure we sound like big balls.
I want to read the rest of this while you're doing that.
All right.
Both saying, now that's a hot take, and John tapping onto the cranky old geek saying that's not a hot take. Listeners, producer. Okay. We both say that's a hot take, and then I say that's not a hot take.
Okay. So we just say the hot take together?
I think so, yeah.
So you got to count me down.
1, 2, 3, 4.
No, I mean, to count us down into the bit, we have to say
that. 3, right, you start at 3. 3, 2, 1.
Now that's a hot take. Where were you?
I dropped the ball.
Yes.
Try it again. Ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Now that's a hot take.
And then, that's not a hot take.
No, it has to be a little more like, that's not a great question, that idea.
That's not a hot take. Think that's better?
That's nailed it. Nailed it. All right, let's bring the reverb back down. Okay, good.
Lastly, I've seen very few downloads of the 3D print designs for the nightstand, ring, and certificate. Maybe something a producer would like to use that for a special gift on Father's Day. And this Thingiverse. Anyway, we'll put a link because it's. Well, next, play it back.
What?
www.thing THINI verse.
I'll put. Don't worry. I'll put it in the his credit. I'll link the Sir Daddy Cast to that Thingiverse. How's that sound? Okay.
Logan Isaacs next on the list. $202 from Carlisle, Illinois. ITM fellows. Shout out to my ravishing broad, Allison, and her daughter, Ellie. Discovered the show via JCD on Grimerica and have been, I'm catching up to the Rogan show.
Yeah, nice.
And have been listening ever since. I'd like a China is asshole, mac and cheese life, and Pelosi jobs karma for my fellow South Illinois slaves.
You got it.
Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole.
Living the mac and cheese life.
Mac and cheese.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And look what I got. This is how great our show is. This is how great our producers are. Thank you very much, Patrick Seymour.
Corona virus.
There you go. It has arrived in the studio. The courier just got here. The tapes have been racked, and it's good.
Markley's next from Martin, Ohio, $200. We got a bunch of $200 ones today. It's very interesting.
It's cool.
In the morning from Martin, Ohio, near Toledo, I'm a first-time donor, could use a de-douching.
You got it.
You've been de-douched.
Thank you both for your deconstruction of the mainstream lies and for keeping me sane through this time. Here in Ohio, the state is held hostage by our health director, Amy Acton. She is able to shut down the state based on a 100-year-old law. There's a bill in our House that would remove this power, but our governor, Mike DeWine, says he will not sign it. Can I get a WTC 7 followed by Leo? I'm a rule follower, followed by Goat Scream Karma. Thank you for all you do. Carl.
WTC 7 won't go away.
I'm a rule follower, right? What do you do? Are you a rule follower?
There you go.
Sir Lauren Osterman in Sils. Oh, he's in Austria. Sils, Tyrol, I guess. $200.
Tirol.
He wants to be mentioned. He's from Innsbruck.
Okay.
I went through Innsbruck once.
Yeah.
Forgive me, yes, on the train. I stopped in Innsbruck. Huh. Forgive me, Podfathers, for I have sinned. After a few small donations way back, I was instanited and showed 406 in 2012. back when the concept of protectorates was not even established. And I believe I have not donated more than $100 since then. I would like to start making up for this with today's associate executive producer contribution and kindly request a de-douching.
You got it.
You've been de-douched.
This show has accompanied me through my undergraduate and graduate studies, keeping me sane. And now, 4 years after finishing my PhD, I'm up for a big grant decision this coming Monday. Trusting in the NA Jobs Karma, I humbly ask for the following jingle combination. Original Nancy Pelosi Jobs Karma, Goat Karma, original Nancy Jobs Goat Karma. I don't know if that's not right.
No, it works.
Okay, this is a combo. He does want a combo.
Yeah.
He wants a Nancy with
Goat Karma. He wants a Nancy Jobs Karma with twist a goat.
With goat.
But
with
then
goat on the side.
Yes, a jerked goat. And then a shut up science after the goat is joked. The goat is jerked.
If possible, could my title be changed to Sir Lauren Osterman? I don't know if he was on the list for updates.
Let me check.
Knight of the Tyrolean Alps, as protectorates were not available when I was. No, they were always available. But I guess this is up to the peerage committee. Thanks for. And the knight of something is not really that's not a protectorate. It's just your title.
Yeah, it's just your hood.
Start with baron.
It's just your hood.
Thanks for navigating all of us through those weird times now more than ever.
Yes, and good news, the peerage committee has accepted that, so that title change will be made, and here's your request in a sequence.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Shut up already. It's science.
That's science. Good old Dr. Kiki.
Next is Zachary Lally in Houston, and you have a note.
Do I now? Because I have a feeling I looked for this note and was unsuccessful in finding it. But one moment, I will check again. Zachary. Okay. I don't think so, John. Let me just. Okay. Oh, no, here it is. Here it is. I did get it. Okay. From Zachary. Been listening to you and John since the run-up to the 2016 election. Found your podcast as I searched for less bullshit than I was seeing on TV or while reading thehill.com. I work in medical device sales and haven't missed an episode since sometime in the spring of 2015. Total douchebag, but we have officially sent some value back to you fine gentlemen. The reason I'm sending this is to share this clip of Banyan breaking down CNN and referring to the anchors as actors. Seemed relevant. May I suggest some Jobs Karma and an Al Sharpton freestyle? Thank you for your courage. P.S. No clue if this is how it works, says Zach from Houston. Close enough, Zach. Close enough. So let me get you some Sharpton freestyle, and I'm very happy to give Jobs Karma.
RESPICT.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
And onward with Walt Tyson, Knight of the Corn Belt Conspiracies. It's from Walt. This donation is on behalf of my smoking hot wife, Amy, for her 33rd birthday on May 21st. She is the best mother of my children and partner the best mother and partner a man could hope for. She is smart, she's funny, and more patient than I deserve. You know? We have been listening together for 5 years now, and I met Adam at the big Des Moines meetup.
Yes.
As for my 33rd birthday, she actually got me a half-price knighthood on your 1000th show, or maybe it was your 10th anniversary, don't know. So the least I could do was use up the last of my fantasy football winnings to donate to her damehood. Feel free to match Sir Ominous of Dog Patch.
Oh.
There's nothing like a dame after all. For jingles, all I want is a love you, mean it. Happy birthday, Amy.
Okay, now do we have a winner here? I mean, does this make sense?
Well, didn't we decide to discuss this after the show?
Yes, we did. Can we put a pin in this so we can remember it?
I think we need to do that.
Just say put a pin in it.
This guy's backed up so many damehoods that we could probably put both these women up.
Okay, so yes, on the birthday list, we have a meeting about this very situation, and here's your request.
Love you, mean it.
That's it. Love you, mean it.
Love you, mean it.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I see a familiar
Nothing
name.
like sincerity.
Familiar
Fred
name
Castaneda.
here. Is this Sergeant Fred?
It must be. He's in Austin.
This is Sergeant Fred, yes, our Vietnam vet.
He sent in a long note, which I will try to read, because it's in longhand. My donation, I find it hard to believe that he wrote this. Sergeant Fred at the 2030podcast.com. His printing looks, well, I don't know, maybe.
No, he has, I've
received
many notes.
It opens with what looks like a woman's handwriting, then it deteriorates, so that's obviously a guy. Yeah. My donation of $200, you'll get to make me an associate executive producer. Gives a shout out. I would like to ask you, but should give a shout out. I would like to ask you to deliver baby making karma to my daughter, Maria.
Yes.
And her husband, Matt Cox, who is also a podcaster, who isn't, with his show over 13 years called Brunch with the Brits.net. Right. Especially since Matt is visually impaired. In addition, I would like to ask for these jingles. Oh, brother. Ready?
Yeah.
Get your pen out. Mac and cheese live, mac and cheese. Drone again naturally, and goat karma. Okay, so that's not too complicated.
So it's mac and
Thanks
cheese.
Thanks for all you do. He continues writing. He puts that right at the top. Keeping us all sane as Matt and I have been something. Others are turning others around from the memes of the lamestream media by hitting them in the mouth. Our best to you and on to keep her and to publish true deconstructions regardless of the face bag and Google takedowns of videos and episodes that tell the truth, that conflict with the agendas of the left. Sincerely, airborne all the way. And he says, you're paratrooper and Vietnam War combat vet who is still suffering from medical complications from Agent Orange. A lot of people have these issues. So Sergeant Fred, 2030podcast.com.
Sergeant Fred has been with the show ever since I've been in Austin. So for 10 years at least, I think he's one of the main donators of double nickels on the dime. And he would send, actually with the double nickels in the dime taped up, Scotch tape. I've met him several times. A lovely guy, has a lovely family. Definitely lost touch with him for a little bit, and I think that was part of the complications from Agent Orange. But I'll take it one step further. This guy he's a Vietnam hero, is what he is, and really good to hear from you, Sergeant Fred. Glad you're doing okay. And here's what you want, buddy.
You slaves can get used to mac and cheese, cheap macaroni and cheap cheddar melted together.
Mac and cheese, mac and cheese, mac and cheese, mac and cheese. Hey, everybody.
Eat the drone again, naturally.
You've got karma.
He mentions his the 2030 podcast.com, but he also says my podcast, God, how many podcasts we get from this family. It's the struggling, I think, bio or bib, or I don't know what this word is. He's got it's the struggling bib or the struggling bio.com. It could be the struggling big.
Oh, I'm trying to think.
I don't know. Whatever it is, it's like Gub. So Woody Allen reference to anybody out there. Anyway, I want to thank Sergeant Fred for his contribution. Tthank you, Sarge.
And that wraps it up for our
That's
executive
our group of associate executive producers and executive producers for show 1244 4.
Yes, thank you all so very much. You're all here. We're all here. Our tribe is complete. We're complete, and we're competing with the mainstream, but they can't get past us because we've got you guys. All this information coming in. I've received more clips, even pre-made clips. It's fantastic. Time code lists, information, anecdotal information, stuff from your families who are working in different sectors. It's incredible. What has been going on, and really appreciate it, particularly this kind of showing. So thank you all for your support. We'll be thanking more people in a bit in our second segment. And of course, we'll be here on Sunday again to do whatever we need to do. Please support us at
Dvorak.org/NA.
Pretty sure you know whether you need a face mask to stay indoors or not. You're schooled.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Order. This will kill you. Shut up, slave.
Nailed it. I'm too
now
tight for this market, really, if you think about it.
I've got a couple of ISOs we want to go over before I play Kaylee. I got some Kaylee clips.
Kaylee, it's too late to say you're sorry. Then, do you know the song, Kaylee?
No, I never heard the song.
Well, it's your beat.
I now call her Kaylee the Avenger. I just like it. So let's try this. Ashamed.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You'll be hearing from me.
Ooh, is that Mika? I like that. I like Mika. Not bad.
Well, here it is. Here's the second version, the shorter version, hearing from me.
Okay.
You'll be hearing from me.
I don't know.
And that's part of it. That's a part of a clip coming up.
Okay.
Then I have following rules, which I think may have slipped in once before.
Okay.
I'm following the rules.
I'm still liking the longer one, actually.
Okay, let's go to this one. Sick person.
Okay.
You're a sick person.
I should have clipped that.
You're a sick person.
Let me just see. Did I have any other ISOs? So I have this one. I told you about that one.
This will kill you.
I have something from a segment coming up.
Where are the locusts?
No, that's no good.
That's no good.
No, that's no good. Well,
I'm going to have trouble topping the kill you one, but let's go. Let's skip. Okay, well,
hold on. It's between the kill you one, and I think this is a good contender.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You'll be hearing from me.
I like that.
This will kill you.
All right, trolls. First 10 votes will count, and then we'll know where we're at.
Brother.
Yeah. Well. There you go.
Okay, so let's go with, I got two ways. I got one, a short one by Kaylee on voter fraud, because this needs to be, and she says it over. She did it twice in this press conference. The second time she read from this thing on voter fraud, she's got her thing. She throws it back at the media. She's great about this. And the second time she had to do the same thing, she said to the reporter, "I guess you weren't listening," and just burned her right there. But this is the voter fraud clip.
November 3rd. You have the prediction tool, and you can tell us what will be happening on November 3rd, 2020. I certainly don't, nor does the president.
Primaries coming up, and that's like what's happening in Nevada.
I assume you care about fairness and accuracy in our elections, do you not?
Of course I do. So there's evidence that there is widespread voter fraud.
There's evidence. You can go look this up on ProPublica. There is a bipartisan consensus on the fact that mass mail-in voting can lead to fraud. There was a 2005 commission by none other than President Carter, who's not a member of the Republican Party, and also James Baker about this, concluding that these ballots, quote, remain the largest source of potential voter fraud. So this is a concern. The president's right to look at this. We want a free and fair election, and that's his concern.
You're so jacked about Kaylee that now you're doing like sprucing up her bits.
Well, I don't have to spruce the next one up. So she goes, it's a two-parter. She goes and she first answers the question, and then she turns and adds information that wasn't requested, blasts Susan Rice, and then she knows. I have to say this about Kaylee. She knows when to quit.
Oh, she's a mic dropper.
She's a mic dropper. So she drops the mic and walks out after the second. But let's listen to the first part.
Hey, Kaylee, Susan Rice wrote an op-ed yesterday in the New York Times that said that President Trump has kowtowed to President Xi, and also has said that called his response to the coronavirus deadly, classified as a deadly mishandling. What's the White House's response to that?
So you said that came from Susan Rice, was it? Okay, so first I would want to take a moment to address the president's response, because the president has had an extraordinary and early response to the coronavirus. I would note, Dr. Birx, the early work of President Trump, both with travel restrictions and quarantine, has bought us the time and space necessary to have this task force be very effective. Dr. Fauci saying that the president's response has been impressive. He can't imagine under any circumstance that anyone could be doing anything more. I can go through the actions. There's a detailed timeline out there of January 6th, Wuhan issuing a travel notice issued on Wuhan when there were 0 cases in the United States. The 17th, 0 reported U.S. cases, and there were public health entry screenings at major U.S. airports. Of course, the infamous travel restrictions that were called xenophobic by Democrats on January 31st. A lot of action in February on developing a test and making sure we were moving forward as speedily as possible on that. Keep in mind, in late February, Pelosi was saying, come to Chinatown, it's very safe. But the president had already taken very early action. And I know you brought up Susan Rice in that context.
So, when she says, I know you brought up Susan Rice in that context, here she goes.
And I know you brought up Susan Rice in that context, but I'm going to bring her up in another context that's equally as newsworthy, and that is the email that was declassified from Susan Rice on Inauguration Day, which is so peculiar. It set the scene. It's Inauguration Day. You're moving out of the White House. This is the most powerful building on planet Earth. Susan Rice is moving out, reflecting on her time here, and what is she doing? She's not packing her boxes. She's not being nostalgic about her time in the White House. What she's doing is writing an email where 3 times she writes that President Obama emphasized to conduct the investigation into Michael Flynn by the book, by the book, by the book. She writes it 3 times. As Shakespeare said, thou doth protest too much, Susan Rice.
Do you think she wrote that herself? Is that her style to?
I think it is.
That's interesting.
He didn't have the Susan Rice part in there, but I'll add that in. 2, she was asked specifically about the unmasking of Michael Flynn after she discussed it on January 5th in the Oval Office with Obama. After she wrote this email to herself on Inauguration Day, she was asked by a good journalist, Judy Woodruff, about this email and about the unmasking of Michael Flynn, not the email, but the unmasking. She was asked specifically about Nunes's claim specifically. So let me clarify. It was Nunes's claim. And she said, I know nothing about this. So it was a lie. And then Susan Rice, since no one brought it up to me, I will bring it up to you. Her attorney said that this was the first opportunity 3 weeks after this Oval Office meeting that she had to write this email memorializing her Oval Office meeting with Barack Obama discussing Michael Flynn. It was her first opportunity, she said. Interesting, because she had an opportunity in those 3 weeks on January 10th to do a passing of the baton event with none other than Michael Flynn, where she praised him, wished him success, and talked about the great transition into the White House. And then on January 12th, she was able to participate in a story that published on that date in the lifestyle section of the Washington Post. So she never had time to write this email until Inauguration Day as she's rushing out the door, when in fact she had an opportunity to do all of those things. I'll leave that with you. Thank you for bringing up Susan Rice, not in the context that I wished, but for allowing me to share that with you.
And that's where she drops the mic and walks out. What I find interesting is actually the lack of pushback that she gets from the media. I don't think they've quite. I don't know if they're afraid of her, and maybe because she came out right away and started punching people around like, oh yeah, really? This is what you said. That's what you said. And is very quick on her feet.
She's very quick
to recall stuff, but they're not. But they're not out there writing stories about how she's a conspiracy theorist. That's different from every other press secretary. Not attacking her like they attacked.
She would go after them if anybody even attempted that. She is because I remember the young Kellyanne Conway.
I think you're in love. I think I'm going to play you a little theme song here just for your girlfriend. Oh, that's the wrong one. Yeah, keep going. I'll find it. Don't worry, I'll find it.
Kellyanne Conway, when she was Kellyanne Fitzpatrick in the 90s, was younger. And she was just like this. She was very quick on her feet. She wasn't in the White House. She was a commentator on various news networks. And she was fast and she was mean. This girl has had to have studied her. She's younger, a lot younger than Kellyanne. She's just as fast. I think she's meaner.
Yeah.
And I think she's studied how to do this right. And she is there to kick ass and nothing less.
Here, listen to this.
She does not. The other guys have. I mean, I thought maybe Huckabee was. She was just too. She was just a lightweight compared to this woman. She is a mean girl. She's a mean sorority girl. I know this type.
Here we go. Here's your song. This is your theme song. We're going back to 1984 with Marillion and Kaylee. Do you remember?
No, I don't. I never heard this.
This was a number one hit. Maybe it wasn't a hit in America. Here.
Do you remember?
Let me get the hook. Yeah.
Break your heart. So sorry
Here.
that you broke mine. Katie, is it too late to say
There you go.
sorry? And Katie, could we get it together again?
I think we can re-release it.
I never heard that song before.
It's a great song.
It seems a little slow moving to me. But I'm sure one of our guys can pick it up and make us a little bit for it. So, because I'm going to follow this woman as
I know. I'm glad you're doing that.
And her information's good and stuff people need to hear. The media is obviously not reporting what she has to say.
No,
they just okay. And they are cowed by her. They are cowed by her.
I think you're right.
See it.
I think you're right. They are. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
so
good.
Put up with the crap.
Always nice to receive a Kaylee package.
We're going to OTG.
That's right, everybody. We're going hard, OTJ. Since there's so much going on, I'm not going to do a very long, extended OTG segment, but I do have some information from the testing lab here. As you know, the entire idea of going OTG is to create less data for the Silicon Valley companies who gladly sell that if they can't. If they're not asked to share it, they'll sell it to the government and any government, anyone who wants it. But also to live a more healthy life with less distraction from your device. You really don't need more than just a phone that can do some text messaging, can make a phone call. Maybe if you need to go email or a quick thing, a quick web search, that's about all it can do. And I've recommended the Alcatel Go Flip 3. Now, when you need to do something additional, it's good to have another device with you. And I have here, I think, a device that fits the bill. And this was created by producer Andrew for me. He sent it off, an LG tablet. And I'm not sure which one this is. It's probably about the size of if you took an iPhone and made it one size bigger. Does that make any sense?
A note? Is it the size of a note? A big phone.
Nah, the thing is, it's interesting. It can have a SIM card, but what's nice about it is it's loaded up with the Lineage OS. Are you familiar with the Lineage OS?
No, I've actually not heard of it, but I assume it's a Linux distro.
Well, the Lineage OS is called Lineage for a reason. It's basically the Android operating system as originally intended, with all of the Google stuff taken out. Which
well, that's not okay.
No, well,
I don't know if that was originally intended not to have any Google stuff in it, but okay.
Well, Google bought Android. So Android was not a Google product. They bought it and baked all that crap in there. So it was originally an operating system that lived outside of the ecosystem. And now this, of course, means that you also get no apps. So there's no Play Store. There's nowhere to install. But wait, is there? Yes. And there's an actual kind of a store, and it's called F-Droid. And this is all open source. Many of them are sanctioned by the Lineage OS people, but of course a lot are just open source stuff that's around. I'm very familiar with K9 Mail, so I'm using that. And it has a couple. Actually, there's a browser called the FOSS browser, FOSS, free open source software. It is so minimal and so basic, yet so lovely to use and fast. And they even have the bar where you type in at the bottom just to make it even faster. It makes so much sense when it's at the bottom. Sure. So what's cool about this? You can connect it to the hotspot Wi-Fi on your Go Flip, and you can do anything you need to do. You'll have to figure out how to install Lineage OS. There are some people who sell them with it built in. And this thing is it's locked and it's in the glove compartment of the car. If I'm on the road and I need to do a little bit extra, it's here. And this Lineage OS is fast. It's incredible, even compared to the speed of an iPhone, or a modern Android. It's fast. These apps are not bloated. It's not sucking out your data and throwing out the back door. I'm very, very impressed. And these things are probably for sale for under $100. You don't give a shit about it. It's like, you don't have to worry about it. Just throw it around and use it when you need to. Battery lasts. I haven't even charged it yet. I've had it for almost a week. So Lineage OS, look out for it. It's very nice.
What?
Yes.
What a nerd.
Well, not really. Not really. If I'm seeing the amount of people who, especially with the tracking and tracing programs, it's now officially been released. The COVID-19 tracking notification system that Apple and Google.
It's for your own good, man.
Yeah, we'll see if anyone actually goes in and installs it. I don't think we're going to get
the people that were just over at your house. They'd be all in on that.
Oh yeah, yeah, they will be when the apps are available. So stay strong, everybody. You can do it, and it's our time. While everyone's being tracked and narked on, we're kind of free people. We're certainly free in our mind.
And the beaches are open.
Of blings and blocks and bloops and things that want our attention, especially now that you're going back out. Enjoy it. Enjoy looking around. Enjoy not being distracted. And that is your OTG segment for the day.
Well, I want to play this Mika clip.
Okay, Mika.
Now, Mika, Trump on Wednesday, I think it was. I don't know how she got this out. She got this screed out so quickly. Trump was just tweeting about one thing or another. He's going on a mostly about COVID. And then all of a sudden, because of something Scarborough said, he writes, well, maybe somebody should look into that intern who died in your office. Cold case file reopened.
Yeah, hold on. I can give you some background on that because the meme was going around, which for some reason a lot of people liked and sent to me, of a call from years ago where Don Imus, the radio host in New York, has Chuck Scarborough on the line before, as the announcement is made, he's going to MSNBC to be a prostitute. And Imus makes the joke about the dead intern. And it's kind of a tasteless joke, very Imus for back in the day. But for some reason, people were sending that to me like, this is a great clip. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a dumb joke from 30 years ago, and they're all douche. And Imus is dead. It's like, this is not a great clip. So if you hate Mika and Scarborough, don't watch them. So I'm presuming this is going to be great because we rarely do clips of them.
Yeah, well, it's because they pound the same tub. But I thought this was a good one because she was really upset about this one tweet, which was I remember reading the tweet when it went through because if you want to do something once in a while, if you're a Twitter guy or gal, go to Donald Trump's feed directly and then just start reading the tweets from top to bottom until you get sick of them. and you won't even get. Looks like he does about 40 tweets a day or more. And so you get it, and you get a lot of information in there. He's got links to things. You also see his taste. He retweets some really tasteless stuff, but it's funny. So you just go through it. And I remember going past this one tweet where he's talking and bitching about Scarborough, and he's right back on his regular subject. It was a throwaway. But apparently Mika, she got so bent out of shape about this one lone tweet. I'm thinking, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something wrong here. And she's got to defend her man because apparently Joe can't defend himself. So he needs this little, this snake to do it for him. And so she goes off she goes off nuts right now. Here we go.
Aside from the fact that most believe that this president has botched this crisis from the get-go, and this will be known in history worldwide as a human catastrophe that he could have prevented. And he's trying to deflect at all times. And Willie and Mike, he's tweeting again all sorts of crazy things. Once again, tweeting conspiracy theories about Joe, falsely accusing him of murder, talking about the death of a young staffer in his congressional office years ago, and calling him dangerous to walk the streets. And I'll just say, I'll take a point of personal privilege here. That's sick. Donald, you're a sick person.
Unlike calling someone Hitler for months.
You're a sick person. To put this family through this, to put her husband through this, to do this just because you're mad at Joe because Joe got you again today, because he speaks the truth.
Hold on a second. Let me just hear that. And I understand the premise is about this happened years ago. Intern dead in Joe's office. But what is Mika saying? Let's listen again.
Sick person. You're a sick person. To put this family through this, to put her husband through this.
Why? What is she saying? To put her husband through this? Who is her, and why is her husband more important than the dead child?
Well, this is the same thing you get from the Seth commentary. It's not, you can't bring it up because it's putting the family. I
understand that part, but it sounds like she's talking about herself. Joe is her husband. It sounds like she's saying, you're putting me through this, or my husband through it. Well, it sounds like it, but I think that the intern may have been married. I don't know any of the details. Okay, all right, doesn't matter. But I'm assuming it's not really about Mika. No, well, even though she may be projecting, it's possible. I think it's all about Mika, ultimately. That's why I pick up on it. It's always projection with her.
Person. To put this family through this, to put her husband through this, to do this just because you're mad at Joe because Joe got you again today, because he speaks the truth, and he speaks plainly about your lack of interest and empathy in others, and your lack of ability to handle this massive human catastrophe, the fact that you've made it worse, and that you make it worse every day, and that you won't even wear a mask to protect people from your germs.
Whoa, that's great. That's like a 3-year-old.
But the germs you're spreading on Twitter, first of all, Twitter, you shouldn't be allowing this. And you should be taking these tweets down. And you should be ashamed of yourself. You'll be hearing from me on this, because this is BS. But Donald, you're a sick person. You're really a cruel, sick, disgusting person. And you can keep tweeting about Joe, but you're just hurting other people. And of course, you're hurting yourself. Willie, why don't you take final thoughts? I'm done.
Wow, so sad. So sad that she went to
I
those.
only get the good ones that are entertaining.
No, that was a great clip. I'm very
balance
happy
to the
with
show,
it.
by the way, for the people who think they were just a bunch of Trump apologists. There you go.
No, I find this to be a beautiful clip. It's so personal to her, The things that comes out of her pie hole, it's all okay. But when it's about
something's very wrong with her.
Well, look at the family lineage. Speak of lineage OS. She's the OG lineage OS. Crazy. You got a second clip from Mika here?
Oh yeah, this is actually the follow up of what's happening, and this is from The Hill, and I use their robot voice or whatever it is that plays this. This is a follow up clip.
MSNBC host Mika Brzezinski said she will speak with Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey to discuss getting President Trump.
I'm going to the school. I'm going to talk to the headmaster about you.
Banned from Twitter. The Morning Joe co-host argued in a series of tweets that the social media giant's platform policies are being, quote, abused by the day. Brzezinski tweeted, quote, I will be reaching out to head of Twitter about policies being violated every day by President Trump. Hope my call is taken. Please retweet if you agree. She eventually confirmed that she would be speaking with Dorsey and the general counsel via phone call. Brzezinski appears to be responding to a Wednesday tweet by the president that attacks her Morning Joe co-host and husband, Joe Scarborough.
I mean, she might as well just call herself Karen from now on. I mean, just Karen Brzezinski. You're
That's
not wearing
the
a
reference
mask.
everyone's using.
You're not wearing a mask. Well, why don't we just make Karen Mika? You're a real Mika. You're a real Mika. You know that? I'm going to go to the Twitter. I'm going to go to Jack from Twitter, and I'm going to tell him you should you should at least remove your check mark. Your check mark should be removed because you're not legit. Oh man, it's okay. Well, it's fun for us. I agree. All right, let's go to some actual information about China. The original Money Honey, Maria Bartiromo, has a show on Fox Business on Sunday. Clearly not funded by China or the pharmaceutical industry yet, but we'll find out. And she had the president on. And here's a little preamble. It kind of starts off with some news that happened over this past week, which included my stepdaughter's alma mater.
A professor at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland has been arrested over his alleged financial ties to China. This just days after the FBI sounded the alarm on China's attempt to steal coronavirus research. A professor at the University of Arkansas was arrested on similar charges last week. And then in January, Harvard's chemistry chief was charged with failing to disclose that he, too, was being paid by the Chinese Communist Party. 2 weeks ago, Senator Tom Cotton told us that the CCP was trying in many ways to steal medical data from the United States to try and come up with a vaccine for COVID-19 before the United States.
That's the first time I've heard that part of an accusation, that they were trying to get it to steal it to be first with a vaccine. I find that hard to believe, but I've not heard that.
I think we had a clip about that. I don't think they used the word vaccine. I think they used the word cure.
Oh, that could be. Anyway, so now we have three clips, about a minute each, with the Money Honey and with Trump. And it's about China. And if you listen very carefully, this is where you get to hear what the president actually means or what she's thinking. But we'll have to listen very carefully and what is really important to him or not. And this is a throwback to your series of clips about the financial. Which clip was that again? Was that with Kaylee? How the president will probably want to go after money from someone, and that someone would be from China.
That was a note that I was reading.
Ah, yes, note. So here we go.
Secretary Pompeo said that he has strong evidence that it did come from the virology lab. We've been reporting this every Sunday, by the way, from early on. You also said that you saw evidence. Can you tell us anything about the intelligence?
No, but we have a lot of information, and it's not good. But you know the worst of all, whether it came from the lab or came from the bats it all came from China. And they should have stopped it. They could have stopped it at that source. I call it the source. Right there.
They made a decision to allow it to escape its borders.
I don't know if they made the decision, but it got out of control. I think more likely it got out of control.
Senator Cotton said that they didn't want the Chinese economy to contract 20% and the rest of the world to contract 2%.
So we were beating them very badly before this. We were beating them between the tariffs and other things we were doing. And we were going up, and they were having a very bad year. They were having the worst year they've had in 56 years.
He had Hong Kong protesters on the street.
And they weren't well, and even beyond that. And we were really doing well. And that is a theory. But here's what I know for sure. They didn't allow this whole thing. They didn't allow people to go into China, but they did allow them to go out to the world, including the United States. That's why Europe is a mess. That's why look at these countries. Russia's having a hard time.
So I think what the president is saying there is, look, I really don't care where in China it came from, as long as we all recognize it came from China. And I'm not going to necessarily say they did it on purpose, but what they certainly did on purpose is they let Chinese travel abroad, and they didn't let the Chinese even travel to other cities within China. So he's clearly...
Yes, he's been saying this for a while, and nobody wants to report on it.
Well, he's just locking it in, and because he knows the Chinese are watching. And he is pissed because, and we identified this when it took place, when the $250 billion trade deal was signed, I noticed immediately, and this is before we had anything going on, really, the very last paragraph on the very last page had a force majeure clause, which essentially said, should anything crappy happen that kind of changes the situation, we all agree we'll come back and we'll figure it out. And that's known as a force majeure clause, and Trump is pissed about it because, well, here you go.
Look, the big thing is they should have never let this happen. So I make a great trade deal, and now I say it just doesn't feel the same to me. The ink was barely dry, and the plague came over, and it doesn't feel the same to me.
Are they going to renege on it? They're not going to buy the $250 billion, are they?
They will buy $250 billion. They said somewhere I see they'd like to renegotiate the deal. We're not going to renegotiate. Look.
Notice that he said that. He's like, the ink was barely dry. So he knows. He knows that they were there under false pretenses. They signed a deal fully well knowing they had a problem and that clause was in there. It may have even been put in on the day of signing.
The problem existed. They knew about it.
Yeah.
It was the thing broke out. So they said, well, yeah, we can sign this because we got a force majeure in here. And it's barely dry. And then the announcement takes place.
And again, this is not for information for the American public, Maria Bartiromo. This is telling China what's on his mind and what he knows and how he feels.
I'm not happy about anything having to do with that particular subject right now.
Have you spoken to Xi Jinping?
I have a very good relationship, but right now, I don't want to speak to him.
I don't want to speak to him. Tell him no. I mean, it's almost like a whiny bitch the way he does that. I don't want to speak with him right now.
I don't want to speak to him.
Because, Senator Cotton was saying maybe we should be limiting the amount of visas that we give to students who want to study things like quantum computing.
There are many things.
And AI.
There are many things we could do. We could do things. We could cut off the whole relationship. Now, if you did, what would happen? You'd save $500 billion if you cut off the whole relationship.
So here the president is signaling, hey, we could just cut the whole thing off. We save $500 billion. I mean, we may not have any medication, but and he's going to
for a while.
For a while,
we could ramp everything up, but it wouldn't be overnight.
Well, presumably, he's already been working on this for 6 months and has all kinds of crap underway and factories being built, but he's not going to stop there. Oh, no. We're going to take away as much money as we can from them, but within limits and reason.
And you pulled back the money.
But we've been proven to be right. Yeah, I pulled back the money.
You pulled back the money from the thrift fund.
Now, I didn't know about the thrift fund, but the thrift fund is that's a thrift savings, and it's like a huge...
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I put it in the show notes here. I think it's kind of like one of those semi-government institutions, kind of like Fannie Mae, if you will. I think it's the thrift plan. Anyway, it's the Federal Retirement Thrift Plan, and there's the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board administers a thrift savings plan, a tax-deferred defined contribution plan similar to private sector 401k plans, which provides federal employees the opportunity to save. So it's a big federal pension scheme. And
what's it got to do with China?
They wanted to put 10% of the thrift fund into MSCI index. That was Chinese companies.
Does that answer your question? They were going to put 10% of the entire fund into Chinese companies.
$50 billion.
Yeah, hold it back.
Will you go one step further and force that Chinese companies have to follow accounting rules if they want to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ?
We're looking at that very strongly, but on the thrift fund, it's run by the Obama appointments, right? And we said, you got to do this. And we're going to find out whether or not they're going to do it very soon. And if they're not, we're going to replace them very quickly. And we are looking at your second part of your question. We're looking at that.
Because Chinese companies like an Alibaba, any Chinese company, they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They don't have to report their earnings the way an American company does.
It's pretty amazing. But here's the problem with that. Look, I hate to say it, but let's say we do that, right? So what are they going to do? They're going to move their listing to London or someplace else. You see? Let's say you want to get tough. and you're going to do, everyone wants to be a tough guy. Look, I'm the toughest guy. But what happens is, so we say, you're going to do this and you're going to follow the rules of the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. What do? They say, okay, we'll move to London or we'll go to Hong Kong.
So he's pretty pragmatic in that regard. It's like, no, I'm not going to make it too tough for him to be on our stock market. We like their crappy ass stocks. It's great for the penny stock boys, for the day traders. They can have a lot of fun with him. But we're not going to let or we're going to request, and I like how he slipped in the Obama appointees on the trust board. We're going to try and not have them invest $50 billion in Chinese companies. So I think it's on. It's full on. They're going after Huawei, equipment maker. The president heard the cry from Hong Kong loud and clear.
Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab.
Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
And we do have a few people to thank for show 1244, starting with Jim Garbazuski. I'm guessing it's in Palos Heights, Illinois, 124.40. Michelle Smalls up next, 123.58. Donald Barthlow in Lago Vista, Texas, 128. Then we have Terrence Pullen in Flint, Michigan, 114.50.
And he needs no dedouching for me. Okay. No, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted one. You're not getting it. You don't want it.
No, he kind of wanted it. He didn't want it. He didn't want it. He did want it. He didn't want it.
We got no time for you.
Kyle Dietz in Savoy, Illinois, 111.20.
And he becomes...
I will mention this, people writing long notes at this segment they're not necessarily read, but this is a night, so I guess you want to read this?
Yeah.
Being knighted, we tend to read their note.
Yes, I consider this a sign. I calculated my accumulated donations, plus a Mile High donation came to $888.80. I consider this a sign to complete my knighthood. I would say so. And with the enclosed 111.20, I recently hosted the first Central Shillinoisian, to which only one person came. Yes, we heard. Someone I'd never met, and we talked for 2 hours on a myriad of topics, so I consider it a success. Yes, indeed. If you meet one person, it's good. I was hit in the mouth during Ebola and was hooked by your non-fear-mongering take, which was unique from even other alternative news at the time. It's fitting that I am knighted during this plandemic. Please knight me, Sir Kyle, the fearless Jedi Knight of the Orange Fleet. And we'll put some of these jingles at the end for you once the Abu Bakr Baghdadi. That's one of my favorites. So we'll put that at the end of the show. And thank you very much. See you on the podium in a bit, Kyle.
Chris Myers next on the list, $105.21 from Wadsworth, Ohio. And he has a call out, and he also uses as a new terminology. He's got a devastatingly sexy and smoking hot pocket of a wife, Kristen. So that's kind of different. 10-year anniversary.
Oh, nice.
That's today. I'd like a douchebag call out to the international man of leisure and legitimate badass Jim Meyer, my father.
Douchebag.
Wow. Harsh.
Yeah, it is harsh. Sure. Next on the list are Gregory Worley in Evington, Virginia, 105.21. Got a birthday coming up.
Not today.
Plain old John in Hendersonville, Tennessee, 7777.
And he's new from that's our ninth. New from the Joe Rogan Experience.
Another one.
Welcome, John. Thank you.
They're generous folk. Baron Mark Tanner in Whittier, California, a regular, comes in twice a month at $76.54, along with Sir Rick in Arlington, Washington, at $69.96. Gina Amato in Orovada, Nevada. Orovada, I don't know where that is. $66.66. Got a note from somebody about something. BlackRock. The Black Thumbs. Yeah, the group. I will say this. I don't have this note in front of me. But Gina and a bunch of other people who have listened to the show for a long time are now requesting jingles and writing long tomes at this segment. And I don't know if they lost the memo, but we don't do jingles at this part of the show.
No. It's the associate executive producers and executive producers for the first segment. It's all explained on Dvorak.org/NA, and it's not because we don't want to or your requests are.
We'll be here forever. That's the problem.
We have show
we used
to do
that.
Yeah, we did when we had less donors, and so we had to make decisions.
Half the show was jingles that everybody kept requesting. So, I mean, I don't know why this hasn't been drummed harder. I guess we need to bring it up.
Well, you got to pound the tub, my friend.
Paul LaRue, in Santa Fe, New Mexico, 5676. Andre Dominici and I don't know how to in Puerto Rico, 5678. Farmer Todd in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, 5555. Frank Dulver.
Well, it's
this is
it's probably a Dutch guy in Scandinavia, Frank Duivenvoorden
in North Vancouver. 5555. Mansour Rod in Alpharetta, Georgia, 5555. Baron Bob of the High Point, 5532 in High Point, North Carolina. Dean Roker in East Grimstead, West Sussex, UK, 5510. Double nickels on the dime. Sir Acid of the Scandinavian Woods in Cortese, Ontario, 5510. Sir Whitecheck in Fort Myers, Florida, 5510. Ian Wilson in someplace in
Ontario, California, and he is also
that's Ontario, Canada.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is Canada. And he started listening after this is the 10th. Hearing me on Joe Rogan, your show has really helped reduce my anxiety, so I thank you. You're welcome. This is my second donation. I'd like a de-douching, please.
You've been de-douched.
And call out my brother Charles as a douchebag. Done.
Seems premature. Sir Saturday in Toronto, Ontario, 50. We got a lot of Canadians today. It's nice.
Yeah, that's very good.
5017 in Toronto, and he's got a birthday donation coming out.
Anchorage, another Canadian.
And then now the following people are $50 donors, name and location. Bobby Menzel in Anchorage, Alaska. Ryan Summer in Stevenson Ranch, California. Adrian Muller in Atascadero, California. Donnie Bain in Ardgay, UK. Thomas Tollett in Shawnee, Oklahoma. John Goyne in Del Mar, California. Robert Case in Mill Spring, North Carolina. Paul Dalby in Colorado Springs. Andrew Gusick, Sir Andrew Gusick to you in Greensboro, North Carolina. Brian Shop in Lenexa?
Lenexa.
I think they made pottery there or something in the 1800s. Brad Taylor in Duval, Washington. You got a lot of 50s today. Daniel LeBoy, Sir Daniel in Bath, Michigan. Sir Scott Lavender in Montgomery, Texas. Sir Jerry Wingenroth in Saugus. And last but not least, Sir Spud the Mighty. Coming in from Marietta, Georgia. Those are all $50 donors. There's a good list of people today. I want to thank each and every one of them for producing show 1244.
And Bobby Menzel, who came in with 50 from Anchorage, gives a shout out to her handsome husband, Corey, and she thanks him for introducing her to No Agenda. So I don't know if she's brand new, but it's always nice when we get those kinds of notes. And thank you all so much for supporting the show. We've already explained it. It is value for value. Whatever you get out of it, you put it right back in. We really appreciate this. And also people who came in under 50. We not only can't read all their notes and play jingles, but it's a good list. And yes?
But I did spot something. Donnie Bain was asking for a de-douching in Ardgay.
Okay.
You've been de-douched.
We do our best. Remember, this show has no producers, but we actually have thousands of them. And so somehow the media tribe clings together with chewing gum and gaffer tape, and we're very happy. Thank you for it. Again, people under 50, you're appreciated as well. Those are our subscription programs. You can find out all about them at our website, which is at the following address, Sing Along Children.
Dvorak.org/NA.
A couple of comments for everybody who needs it.
Jobs Jobs, jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
You have quite a list for birthdays today. It is the 21st of May, and would have been my mom's 81st birthday, so I'm thinking of her today. And we have congratulations going from DC Girl to Sir Chris Wilson. She's getting in early. He'll be celebrating on the 27th, so she's getting it in now, and he'll be double nickels, and that's our Chris Wilson from Australia. Sir Dave Fugazzotto says happy birthday to the marvelous Dame Melody, the classy cougar. Matthew Deedle to his smoking hot wife, Erin Deedle. She celebrates tomorrow. Sir Daddy Cast is celebrating today. Whit Thiessen, happy birthday to his smoking hot wife, Amy. 33 magic numbers today. Sir Greg Worley is celebrating. Andres Dominici, happy birthday to his daughter, Andrelis Dominici, who turns 14 tomorrow. Sir Saturday is very happy to congratulate his lover and confidant, Dame Catherine Lowe. It's her birthday today. And finally, Brian Richardson celebrates today. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe.
And I want to add Eric, the shill.
Is it his birthday today?
It was his birthday on Tuesday.
Oh.
He doesn't put his name on there. He doesn't put his wife's name on.
He doesn't put his mom's name on there. I mean, it's amazing he even shows up for work.
Well, he doesn't like the family, apparently.
He hates his family. But we love him. Happy birthday to Eric the Shill.
Title changes, turn and face the slave. Title changes, don't want to be a douche.
Yes, we have the change of title. Sir Lauren Osterman becomes Sir Lauren Osterman, Knight of the Trollian Apps. And but that was the change we made, I believe. Yeah, I think so. Who knows? We got so much back office work. Thank you very much for your support of the No Agenda Show. And then we have 2 nights. Yes, 2 nights to take care of. So I think we should get our... do you have a blade? Do you have something?
No, hold on a second. It's in the... Here it is.
It's next to the keyboard, isn't it? Usually? Okay, there we go. Up on the podium, please, here at the No Agenda Roundtable, Scott from Michigan. We like Kyle Dietz here as well. Both of you have supported the No Agenda Show in the amount of $1,000 or more. That means we are very happy to welcome you to the Roundtable, and I'm proud to pronounceate the Sir Scott from Michigan and Sir Kyle, the fearless Jedi Knight of the Orange Fleet. For you gentlemen, we have Hookers and Blow, Ren Boys and Chardonnay. We've got Single Malt Scotch, Early Times and BF4, Pog and Poi, Dame Elise, Limoncello and Sam and Dr. Pepper and a Quick Handy. We got Diet Soda and video games, beers and blunts, bong hits and bourbon, sparkling cider and escorts, ginger ale and gerbils, breast milk and pablum, but you probably are here for the mutton and for the mead. Enjoy that, and please see the door over there. You can go to noagendanation.com/rings. That's where you give Eric the Shill your info, and we'll make sure that we get your rings and your sealing wax and your certificate out as soon as possible. And thank you all so much for supporting the best podcast in the universe, the No Agenda Show. Pass it on. Just wanted to mention to you, as we wind it down for today, that I don't know if you've seen the Matt Lauer Medium article about the Ronan Farrow reporting on him specifically.
There is this the well. There was a piece that was written
in the New York Times. Actually, there was a piece that was
in the
written.
New York Times.
Yeah, talking about
is that
how
different than the one in Medium.
Well, no, the New York Times piece is talking about Ronan Farrow not being so journalistically great with his reporting.
It's a takedown.
And Matt Lauer posted a very long Medium article where he deconstructed Ronan's assertions and called 4 people who Ronan never called. And the New York Times checked, and they checked with those 4 people, and they said, yeah, Matt Lauer's story checks out, which means, the way Lauer puts it, yes, he had an inappropriate relationship, but no, it was not rape, and it was consensual, which does put the media hype in a different light. But and the entire Me Too movement, I think, or the insanity of the hype of the media, the machine. I don't know exactly what it says. I don't think it's going to matter much for Matt Lauer, but it should be noted that there are other sides to that story.
Well, it should be noted that apparently, according to Ben Smith, who's now writing for the New York Times, the Ben Smith from Politico, who wrote that piece, a hit piece, and then the Lauer follow-up, and then the follow-up of the Lauer assertions. This is targeting Ronan for some specific reason, and I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but it was a target. It was a hit job. The New Yorker, meanwhile, which ran the Ronan pieces, they kind of defended him, saying that this is just jealous because the New York Times wouldn't do anything with the Pharaoh information. So it's become like a little slap fest of people kind of going after each other.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going to come of it because I think there's something to this. There's something behind it. That's what I want to know. I mean, maybe this. I don't know. I'd have to go back to fact check on whether Pharaoh's just making stuff up, which is possible. Or, I mean, there's also some people that he may have said something, and then now they're reneging. Oh, no, I never said anything. No, that's not true. He never called me.
Yeah, that's also possible.
That seems dubious.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like, that's unlikely that he didn't call them and they're lying about it? But he did call them and they're lying about it now?
I don't know. I mean, it could be one or the other. I mean, it could be he never called any. Maybe he's a full of shit guy. There's plenty of them that are in journalism that just make stuff up, and they say they contacted this person and that person. They never did. But generally speaking, when that happens, the person comes out and says, hey, he never called me at the time of the reporting. They don't come out much later after Lauer calls them.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So something's up.
Yeah.
And it'll be worth keeping an eye out because it'll be fun.
I have
it's a douchebag fight.
Yeah, it is a douchebag fight. I have a couple clips left of this Biden recording with Poroshenko, which I think is kind of worth listening to because it's one of those things that if you listen to it without any lead in or kind of understanding of what's going on, I think it loses context, and these days everything seems to get lost.
I just want to say I have two clips or more because I got some Pelosi ramblings, but those are evergreens to follow up, which have nothing to do with this.
Okay.
But let's talk about Biden.
Okay, so first, this all goes back to Biden bragging at the Council on Foreign Relations about how he got a prosecutor in Ukraine fired. And just to remind you, here's the piece of that clip.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they did. Yes. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, "No," I said, "I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion." They said, "You have no authority. You're not the president." The president said, "I said, call him." I said, "I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion." I said, "You're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here." And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, "I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money." Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
All right, so let's listen now. These phone calls give us a little more insight into exactly what was going on, and the way I read it, it sounds more that Joe had some kind of issue, and this is, of course, what the Republicans who are going after him say. But with this, there's some context to it and some evidence just on the surface of listening to these series of calls that kind of points to that. So the accusation would be Biden had some kind of issue with this prosecutor because he was hunting his son or him or who knows who else. Guy had to be removed. And Joe wants the prosecutor removed And first he sends his Secretary of State at the time, John Kerry, to do the dirty work. And Kerry is clearly, I've heard calls like this. He's sending the message to President Poroshenko in this clip.
Before Vice President Biden comes, I just wanted to try to urge you to see if there's a way to get by this problem of replacing the Prosecutor General, Shokin, because from our perception, he's blocked the cleanup of the Prosecutor General's office, and I know the Vice President is very concerned about it, and I think it'd be good to try to have some resolution of that before the Vice President comes, if it's possible.
And I doubt that any other general prosecutor can do that, but we provide absolutely transparent procedure for the selection commission.
Okay, so Kerry's saying, the vice president really would like that prosecutor gone, really thinks it's important that prosecutor's gone. And here is Biden calling him his buddy Poroshenko himself to make sure we've got this message. That prosecutor's really got to go, really got to go.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Your call is reconvened.
Petro, can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's better.
I can hear you better, too. I'm sorry. You were saying, I missed what you were saying.
Joe, I have a second positive news for you. Yesterday, I met with the General Prosecutor Shokin.
Yes.
And despite of the fact that we didn't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong.
This is very interesting, and this was recorded on the Ukrainian end, but it's very interesting. He says, despite the fact that we have no information on this prosecutor being corrupt whatsoever,
I especially asked him, it was the day before yesterday, I especially asked him to resign as his position as a state person. And 1 hour ago, he bring me the written statement of his resignation.
Great.
And this is my second step for keeping my promises.
I agree.
So, listen, I got the guy. I have his letter of resignation in my hand. I think he's being cagey about that because that doesn't mean the guy was actually going to step down. This is part of my promise to you. And Joe goes, great. Yeah, so I'm fulfilling my promises. And Joe goes, I agree. So that means we've got a quid pro quo.
Introducing President Poroshenko.
By the way, I think that's, isn't that Bandcamp Girl? Isn't that Secretary?
Oh, it might be.
State,
she worked
Harf?
For
Marie Harf. I think it's Marie Harf.
I think it is Harf.
Which implicates her in this scam, which I like.
Introducing President Poroshenko.
Hey, Mr. President Joe Biden, how are you?
Very well indeed. All the time when I hear your voice, it's a great pleasure for me.
Well, I'm on Air Force 2, and I think we're going to stay connected. We just took off, and I'm hoping this connection will stay open. Assuming that there is a new government and a new prosecutor general.
So he's literally said, tell me, we got a new government and a new prosecutor general. So it's done, right? It's done.
I am prepared to do a public signing of the commitment for the $1 billion. Again, I'm not suggesting that that's what you want or don't want. I'm just suggesting that that's what we're prepared to do. And again, it wouldn't be finalized until, the IMF pieces are written.
Extreme.
So the way I read that is, okay, you got that guy out? All right, here's $1 billion. I'm not suggesting that's what you wanted or that's what you needed, but here's $1 billion. That one sentence is the problem for me. I'm not suggesting that's what you wanted, but we're just doing that out of the good of our heart after he just got through saying that the prosecutor is gone.
Extremely strong motivation. One of the possible candidates.
Yeah. And the $1 billion?
Until, the IMF pieces are written.
Extremely strong motivation.
Extremely strong motivation, Joe. Thank you for your $1 billion.
One of the possible candidates was leader of my faction, Lutsenko,
and now he's discussing openly who he's going to replace him with.
Is the public figure. If you think that the political motivated figure would be not very good from your point of view, I recall this proposal. I do not propose, because nobody knows that I want to propose Lutsenko.
All right, so Lutsenko was then proposed. But I don't know if this came after. I'm not quite sure where this came in the timeline, because it sounds like they have a deal and then Biden shows up and then the deal is not on. But to me, it sounded like he was really getting some money for them in exchange for them doing something. And he took it quite personally. And even after Kerry didn't get a satisfactory answer, he went in there personally. So to me, it sounds iffy. What do you think?
No, the guy's as corrupt as it comes. It's not even close to being iffy. If they think Trump's minor little conversation over the phone was anything bad, this is terrible. This is 10 times worse. And of course, it's being covered as well. Poor Joe.
What struck me is how well he's speaking then compared to now. Very, very Joe. He speaks.
Yeah, what was the year of this?
This is only a few years ago.
Well, he had his last operation on his aneurysm, I think, was 2003. He had two different operations on his brain.
This was the last clip I was going to play. It is a rare clip. Only the No Agenda Show has the full clip, as far as I know. Biden from 2013 discussing both of his brain surgeries. This is the clip no one wants to hear, particularly at the very end. At least no one in the Democrat Party or Joe Biden camp want you to hear.
Or the media.
As I said, no one in the Joe Biden camp or the Democrat Party want you to hear.
But I repeat myself.
Saying the media is not necessary. We all know.
I had two cranial aneurysms, and they literally had to take the top of my head off. I mean, they take a saw and they cut your head off and go in to find the artery that is, one was leaking, the other that hadn't before it burst. Those of your docs know there's every profession has their sick jokes. The joke among docs is, how do you know someone's had an cranial aneurysm? On the autopsy table. Only 20% of the people haven't even get to the table. Well, one of the fascinating things is the second operation, after the first one, which was a bleed, and they gave me a relatively low chance of surviving. I remember going down to the doc, asking the doc, and you're counting the ceiling tiles, and you're heading into the operating room. A lot of you have been there. And I said, Doc, what are my chances? I had two great neurosurgeons. And I'll never forget, I will not mention his name. He's one of the leading neurosurgeons in the world. He said, Senator, for mortality or morbidity? And I'm thinking, I swear to God, true story. I'm thinking, oh, geez, well, I said, let me put it this way. It was a long road to the operating room. I said, sister, absolutely true story. I said, what are my chances of getting off this table and being completely normal? He said, well, your chances of living are a lot better. And I said, okay, what are they? He said, well, they're in the 35 to 50% range. And I thought, well, seriously, I was a born optimist. I said, well, hell, that means 35 out of 100, 50 out of 100 make it. I might as well be the one. I said, well, what's the most likely thing that will happen if I live? But what? He said, well, the side of the brain that the first aneurysm is on controls your ability to speak. And I thought, why in the hell didn't they tell me this before the 88 campaign? It could have saved us all a lot of trouble.
And there you have it. His speech is problematic because of his brain operations.
Yeah, that's what this has been. This is a meme that goes around. He blames it on that.
Yeah, which is fine, but it's not presidential material.
Yeah, it's not fine. That you're right. That's the point.
All right, play us home, JCD.
Okay, well, I got a couple of things. I'm trying to think which order to go in here. I have one thing is kind of this is the clip that's been floating around. This is the Chicago mayor just before she got into office, or when she first got into office, and she's having some trouble with aldermen. And she goes on about how she's going to correct these problems and she's going to put these new people in. And I cannot find any evidence that this has been. I think this is a deep fake.
Oh, don't even play. It's not a deep fake, but you have to have the whole clip in context.
I have most of the clip.
No, you have to have 3 minutes before this, but it's okay. We can play this. It's 1 minute is the clip, but
I would cut it down to just what she said.
Yeah,
because I don't think this is in context. I don't even know why she said it.
She was okay.
Well, explain. I'm all ears.
If you listen to the full interview, it's a full hour.
Yes, I know but we always assume this.
And there's about 3 minutes before this minute of the statement, which is specifically about the aldermen and how the fiefdoms in Chicago are run.
Yeah.
But then when you just take this, it sounds like it's, and they have their, I mean, I don't want to use the term to blow the clip, but I think everyone might have seen it by now. But to me, she was only talking about that. So this is not a deep fake. I think she said it. The fact she said it is more disturbing about what she said it about.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why did she say it? Even let's say we got a 10-minute clip. I don't care what context it's in. Why would you say this?
Oh, because she believes in it.
Well, then what's wrong with playing this clip?
Well, because
the point of the clip
I've seen it a million times. I'm like, why are we still doing this? This has been around for 2.5, 3 weeks. That's all.
We've never played it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And I only heard it last week.
Well, let's go then.
My thoughts are, because it's not written.
And you got the shit version, too. God damn it. I wish I had.
This is the best version I could find. How come you don't have it?
Because I wasn't interested in it as a clip, and I had the good version.
You don't think it's interesting that the Chicago mayor would say that we want people to pledge allegiance to the New World Order?
Yeah. In context.
That work in our government? You don't think that was interesting?
After I'd seen the clip for almost a month, and after I had gone back and looked at the full context of it, it was less interesting. I don't have it here to play for you because it's about 4 minutes, and then you see that she refers back, and it's just not interesting. It's interesting in the 1 minute context.
Well, that's what I have, and you say it's not interesting. It should be in the full context.
Unless you know
let's
what's...
skip this clip. Let's skip this clip.
This is fucking stupid. This is a stupid conversation. You're asking me...
Let's skip the clip. No, let's skip the clip.
No, I'm forcing it on everybody now. Now we have to listen to it.
My thoughts are, because it's not written into law, it's just a very dominant culture. I think the only way you can do it is a couple ways. One, I'm thinking about an executive order from day one that says, in more legalese than this is not a thing. We will no longer honor this, because the way that aldermanic prerogative works is there's got to be compliance with the executive branch, because otherwise it doesn't work. So you got to eliminate that compliance, and you make it a mandate, and then you do training, particularly in the city. I'll call them licensing departments, whether it's zoning, buildings, housing will be impacted by it, planning certainly, and you pick the people to run those agencies and the deputies that are pledging allegiance to the New World Order and good governance. And then I think you have the Inspector General do some spot audits to make sure that there is real compliance.
All right, until your comment was going to be it's a deep fake. That's why
I think it is.
No, it's not. This is a horrible version of it. There's a good.
Thank you very much.
There's a good
shit on my clip. The point is that she said pledge allegiance to the New World Order. I just don't believe that. It doesn't make any sense in the conversation.
Okay. I will produce what I didn't want to do because it's not that interesting, and there's no joke and no payoff. It's just like, okay, she meant it that way, and it's good quality. So I'll produce that. I didn't shit on your clip. I didn't shit on it.
Tell us in advance why she didn't mean allegiance to the New World Order if she actually said that.
What's your question?
Well, you said in context, in the larger context, it made some sort of sense to say allegiance to the New World Order.
Yeah. You have to listen to 15 minutes to understand that she's talking about how those guys operate, and she's saying this is what they want. She's not saying...
you think it's the aldermen that want everyone to pledge allegiance?
Yes, that's what I tried to tell you. That's what she's saying.
Well, you could have just told me.
I did, but you were so angry at me, you didn't hear me.
No. Let's go back, because under that context, it doesn't make any sense to me. Because she specifically says, okay, you produce a clip that shows me that the aldermen of Chicago, of all places, want the people to pledge allegiance to the New World Order.
Yes. Yes. No, the aldermen pledge allegiance to the New World Order. That's what she's complaining about them. Which doesn't make it less interesting, but the clip never was good, and that's why I never played it. And also because it's been around for 4 weeks.
That the Chicago aldermen are pledging allegiance to the New World Order. I would like to hear it.
I'll get it for you. That's fine. I can produce it. But I'm just saying, it was like...
Now, the next clip, which is was taken from that early interview with the Cove 5 people. The woman who's talking on that, she goes on and on about how she's ADHD, and she says that you're either going to be a great scientist or you're going to be a criminal. And from that, there's a little side discussion, a 30-second clip, where apparently ADHD people either are... Well, play the clip and you'll hear what... If you have ADHD genuinely, you're either going to be one thing or the other. Let's hear what it is.
By the way, the ADHD thing, I will share a little piece of legit research with you in case you probably already know it, that ADHD people genetically, or not genetically, but statistically, actually end up as salespeople or in prison. That's
I wasn't kidding. I did some of the clinical studies with donepezil hydrochloride, which is utilized for Alzheimer's, but it was also used for adult ADHD. And when we were recruiting patients, we found that many of the physicians said that we would find people, a lot of them would be either traveling for work, as you say, with a salesman job, or they'd be parolees.
This is not good news.
Well, if you like sales.
That's a funny clip.
Now, hearing this, I decided that I know a lot of salespeople, and I like sales. I don't have ADHD that I know of, but I'm wondering now, I'm going to redefine them as to see, are the best salespeople ADHD or
Well, possibly, and if you've got ADHD and brown shoes, then I think you're a winner.
It just makes me wonder how many salespeople have ADHD, and why is it something they fall into so nicely? So we should take the prisoners who have ADHD and make them salespeople. That's a job for them.
Looking forward to that day.
Brown shoes. All right,
everybody. An extra long edition of the show. But then again, sometimes it's necessary. We're done when we're done. And we will return on Sunday for another fun-packed episode. Please remember us at Dvorak.org/NA. Nick the Rat coming up on NoAgendaStream.com. And we've got end-of-show mixes from Tom Starkweather, Roland Gonzalez, and Circumference, along with the requested Gitmo Nation National Anthem. Coming to you from Opportunity Zone 33 here in FIBA Region 6 on the governmental maps in Austin, Texas. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where as I look down on the traffic, it looks normal to me. I'm John Dvorak.
We return on Sunday right here on No Agenda. Again, remember us at Dvorak.org/NA. Until then, take care. Adios, mofos. And such.
You can kick their balls, but you can't touch them.
They can't be grabbing everybody's balls.
Touch those balls. Touch those balls.
You can only touch your team's balls.
So that you don't touch other people's balls. Who's
Whose balls are whose?
They can't be grabbing everybody's balls.
You can kick their balls, but you can't touch them.
You can only touch your team's balls.
Whose balls are whose?
They can't be grabbing everybody's balls.
Whose balls are whose? Of course, if you're playing with someone in your household, you can touch those balls.
I give her high marks for that. High marks. Okay. I feel so much better now.
But we've got the biggest balls of them all. Oh, we've got big balls. We've got big balls. We've got big balls.
Go about your lives, go about your business.
It's the fear of the unknown which causes the panic that you're talking about.
And we're healthy here. So don't worry about whatever the room is saying.
The risk to New Yorkers for coronavirus is low.
It is totally safe to come out and have dinner, just be in the communities. It's a Lunar New Year.
We cannot shut down because of undue fear. That's my concern.
We want people still to go on about their lives.
This is not a major threat for the people in the United States, and this is not something that the citizens of the United States right now should be worried about.
Health officials say it's important to keep the numbers in perspective. The flu has been much deadlier this winter.
Not going to sink the American economy.
Well, let's say you have 100 cases, and let's say you don't do a shutdown, then it grows 33% per day.
Many people don't even notice that they have symptoms, and then they might spread the virus without even knowing it.
The best is yet to come.
The worst is yet ahead for us.
Then they want to actually punish you. They want to use the full force of the law, fine you, throw you in jail, arrest you, take away your freedom just because you're engaging in activity that was previously perfectly legal.
Well, protesters say this, governor says this. Protesters say this, governor says this.
You know, right now as we go through this pandemic, and we started off about staying at home, and then it turned into wear a mask, and
we have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be just fine.
The mayor is reminding everybody the risk of infection to New Yorkers is low. Testing.
The truth must be based on science.
People are starting to realize that we are actually depending on science and that we need to listen to scientists.
Testing.
Gets under your skin.
Providing this information voluntarily is crucial to our work.
Tracing. Testing.
Gets under your skin.
It almost certainly is higher.
Tracing. Testing.
Gets under your skin.
Like bringing a camera into focus.
Tracing. Testing.
Gets under your skin.
It almost certainly is higher.
Tracing. Testing. Isolation.
Like bringing a camera into focus.
Tracing.
These tests are not 100% sensitive or specific.
Isolation.
It almost certainly is higher.
Tracing.
We have to listen to the scientists.
Isolation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for your Gitmo Nation National Anthem.
In the morning, Gitmo Nation, we are all charged up to be human resources and servants in all lands and all ships at sea. From the east to west, down under to the lowlands and beyond. We are happy and distracted slaves. Hear our Gitmo Nation song. In the morning,
Dvorak.org/NA.
Corona virus.